It is 6 p.m. and I'd like to welcome everyone here for the workshop on planning case pre-application review number 2014-140.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The workshop tonight is, as you just mentioned, a pre-application review by the Commission of a proposal for a shopping center, commercial center at Newport and Winterhawk Roads. We have our planner that's working on this, Ryan Fowler, that will go through a presentation. Then the applicant will have the opportunity to address the commission, and then you can give staff and the applicant guidance on the concept of the center that's presented to you tonight. With that, I'll turn it over to Ryan.
Okay, pre-application review number 2014-140 is the commercial retail center at the southwest corner of Newport Road and Winterhawk Road. So this gives you a location map here. To the west is also Wingate Lane. On the east side of the project site is a gas station and the Menifee car wash. To the north is some single-family residential homes. To the west is vacant land, and to the south is a wholesale commercial nursery. So pre-application review 2014-140 is for a new retail shopping center. It has 4 freestanding buildings on it. It's 1.87 acres. We've labeled them A through D. Building A in the center there is a sit-down retail commercial building for sit-down restaurants. It has 2 outdoor patio areas on the north and south side of the building. Building B is a nearly 2,700 square foot fast food building with the drive-through. It's there on the corner of the site on Newport and Winterhawk, and it has 1 outdoor patio area as well. Building C, towards the south, is the tire sales and service building. It has the retail showroom and 8 service bays. And finally, D is the 5,400 square foot drive-through car wash. It's going to have 2 access points, 2 driveways, one off of Winterhawk Road and the other off of Wingate Lane. It's got proposes 2 freestanding monument signs. One's at the southwest corner of Newport and Winterhawk, and the other is at the southeast corner of Newport and Wingate. And the project currently proposes 100 parking spaces. So there's a few items that we wanted to bring up for planning consideration for you guys to discuss that staff identified. First is the consistency with the economic development corridor land use designation. All the uses that I presented, all the uses that the applicant has presented, the restaurant, which sit down and fast food with the drive-through, the car washes, and the tire repair shops are all allowed in the current version that you guys have seen of the draft EDC zoning code. Only difference between those uses is that the restaurant with the drive-through requires a CUP, and all the rest require the plot plan. So what we're requesting is feedback from the Planning Commission on a few items related primarily to the to the drive-through. Number one is there acceptable number of drive-throughs within a given center, within a given shopping center, and what would be reduced parking as warranted?
Is it basically warranted because the car wash is an in and out kind of a thing, or what's their basis for initially rationalizing a lower parking area?
Have we even seen the analysis?
We haven't seen the study yet. I know
Some basic assumptions.
one was that the requirements for the tire repair shop were, per our code, are way over what is actually needed. I know that a big chunk was taken up there. So I have not seen the study yet. And then the third item that I want to bring up for your guys' discussion is a few circulation items. First and foremost is we'll be requesting an alignment study from the applicant. They're aware of this. You see from the purple lines there that Winterhawk is misaligned on the north and south side of Newport Road. Essentially, what that does is when it's misaligned, when it's aligned, when they're both turning left, the cars can avoid each other pretty easily. However, when they're slightly misaligned, making that left turn, there's a bit of a conflict, and they aren't always able to anticipate the other car well and go around the car.
Talking about the misalignment with, north of Newport?
See the two purple lines shown on the screen? That's the misalignment. So what that may result in is some additional right-of-way from on the west side of Winterhawk being taken out of the project site. A few feet. Another item is that there's multiple dead ends that may present circulation issues. The first one on the north end is at the end of that drive aisle where the drive-through lets out. The other dead end is on the south side of the tire store. One more item that was brought up by our traffic engineer was the tight turn into the drive-through. So what they'll be required to do during review is to provide an exhibit showing that that tight turn can be achieved. And we'll also be asking to show potential future access into that property to the southwest. That property to the southwest is also EDC. It's not owned by the same owner that owns these three parcels, but we want to plan for the eventual connection to that, so they'll just have to show potential access points.
Because there's no other access to that property, correct?
Correct.
Through a commercial designation.
Should, do we have some kind of condition of approval of easement to them to get in there?
We can impose a condition that calls for the future allowance of access, and then the trade-off would be shared parking, so that the parking that they would have to give up to provide the access would have to be covered by the adjoining property.
A couple of just more minor points. One is the trash receptacles, the trash enclosures that you see. Back it up, right there. It's at the entry point, right at the drive-through, or way. And the reason why, I'll show you the other one, the reason why the applicant has chosen to put those there is because parking stalls can't be put within 30 feet of a driveway. So otherwise, those wouldn't be used as parking stalls. However, they do present an issue, a conflict potentially, with a motorist coming into the center if a large trash truck is parked right at the entry of the driveway.
Just play devil's advocate, isn't it almost a better thing being it's close to that road, where you don't got the trash truck driving through the development?
It's better to have the trash truck enter the site and be on the site when they stop, pull out the bins and load it, and then unload it and so forth.
Only because motorists are coming quickly into the site, and once they enter the site, they slow down. And there are 2, potentially 3 parking stalls that are currently located within that 30-foot setback that I mentioned. Within 30 feet of that right-of-way line, there can be no parking spaces.
That's
So-
the ones right next to the trash bins?
So that one,
Across the drive out from the circle there.
this one that just pops up.
Okay.
And so that would reduce them down an additional 2 or 3 parking spaces from the 100 that they're currently proposing. So at this time, we're requesting that you conduct the open to the public workshop and provide feedback to the project applicant regarding their pre-application review.
I have one other question. On a standard sit-down restaurant, Sizzler, Mimi's, whatever, what is the, not minimum, but, mid-range square footage of a building that would accommodate that?
It's really dependent upon the restaurant, but it's typically anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 square feet.
4,000 to 6,000, okay.
And with the conclusion of his presentation, we'd like the applicant to address the commission and basically, as we refer to it, as a dog and pony show, but it can be any information they would like to provide to the commission. And then you will have the opportunity to ask questions and then seek any comments from, obviously, we have a few people in the audience, seek comments from the audience, and then simply discuss amongst the commission and then give staff and applicant guidance.
Got the floor. Good evening, I'm Todd Dwyer. Group, we're the developer for the project.
Odd what?
Todd Dwyer with the Focus Group. Focus Group, we do developments all over Southern California, also across the nation. We also do multifamily type projects, own about 3,200 apartment units across the country. So we do both commercial and multifamily residential. I kind of spearhead more of our commercial side. Ryan did a great job basically presenting the project that we're proposing here. Should I just maybe kind of address some of the comments that came up? In regards to the, I hired Urban Planning Systems to do an analysis on the parking. So they utilized all the different uniform traffic code guidelines from different publications to come up with that particular parking count that we have. So I can submit that to you, Ryan, so I'll send that over to you. In regards to the circulation, the two dead ends, I don't know if we can put that back up there or not, but for the tire center, the particular tenant that we're working with, they were not wanting to do on the furthest southern point there. They weren't wanting to have an access point there, but we can require them to do that. So that would solve that particular condition. I personally think it works better to put the entrance there, but I was kind of honoring their request. So if that's a pleasure of the city, we can certainly add that in. The entrance or the circulation on the north side, that's, I think we have on there, Ryan, don't we show that turnaround stall? We're actually putting in a turnaround stall there so that if a car were to drive northwardly in that parking lot and if it were full, then we have an extra wide parking or extra wide hatchered space that would allow them to pull in and back out and exit back out of that area. I know it's not perfect. But this is something that we've done on multiple other sites, so it's something that isn't unusual from what we've experienced. So that's what we're proposing here to satisfy that circulation concern. In regards to the misalignment, I just got this morning the misalignment study from Urban Systems as well, so I can send that over to you. I believe he has spoken to your guys' city traffic engineer. And so they're talking about a few different options that can be possible to make that work over there. So I think we're moving in the right direction to satisfy those concerns that you have when, I guess, a car is wanting to go either north or south and a car takes that left. Sometimes there's confusion there and it can be a little bit dangerous. Justin told me that he's been working with your traffic engineer and he thinks he has some options that can make that condition safe and appropriate.
But what are those options?
Well, the first two, he would be much better to explain it than me, but I think the gist of it was to either not necessarily restripe, but to change the lanes, whether they go straight and left in a particular lane, and then in combination with the light itself to change it from either just a circular green that allows for a green yield as opposed to actually giving a green arrow. Because the green arrow actually says, okay, now you can go, whereas a green says, you take your pick.
Right, and with the green, excuse me for interrupting, the green arrow would allow one direction to make the turn and then stop for that direction and then the other direction. So you wouldn't have that conflict of two happening at one time.
Right. And so the first two options were basically kind of working with different concepts, different strategies with those concepts in mind. And the third one was to actually do some lane widening into our property, which of course impacts our property. But that was the third option. So our preference would be one of the first two, but that's still to be. He just literally finished it within the last couple of days, so he's going to be getting with your guys' city traffic engineer to further discuss that. So. The misalignment access. I guess we'll look at that tight turn for the fast food entrance there, make sure that that can happen. The access to the property is southwest. The only thing I would say to that is, we're spending an absorbent, this site, one of the problems that this site has had is there's some pretty large off-site utility extensions to get to this property. And so it's made, I believe that the one parcel, the longer narrow parcel on the eastern side, had tried to been developed before, and just the off-site utility cost is what was really preventing the development of the site. So by us adding the secondary site in, it gave the project enough size and substance that we were able to overcome those off-site development costs. So long story short, we're spending a lot of money to make this particular area utility ready. And so, you know, if that, while I understand the access to the property is probably an appropriate thing, we would just want to make sure we discuss, you know, like a reimbursement type agreement once that property should develop, and that access is actually given. So also, just as a sidebar, there is a road, an easement on the western side of our property called Wingate. So there is technical access to that property in the back. That's just kind of a sidebar, you might note that. So they do have access other than through our property as well, but for commercial centers, the more access, the better, so I understand. The trash enclosures at the entry point, Ryan nailed it. We put it there just mainly because of the city requirement to not have parking spaces there. I think we can overcome the concern with the trash company to have them, you know, enter from appropriate directions, so they're not backed out into Wingate and or onto Winterhawk whenever they're emptying the trash bins out. The site is pretty tight on parking, so every spot does count, so it's kind of an important item to us. And then in regards to the 3 spots that we are showing in that 30-foot throat, I'm doing a site right now in Whittier. It's a 2-site, it's a Popeye's Chicken and a Pyology site, and they have a similar requirement for that 30-foot throat. Really what it's designed for is or intended to do, from my understanding, is if someone were to pull into the site, and if you had a person that was backing out on the stalls on your right-hand side, they could then effectively block traffic trying to pull into the site, which can then back traffic out onto the street. But one could argue that on the other side, on the left-hand side, when they back out, they're technically not restricting that flow of traffic coming into the site. So that person could back out and then exit without, you know, delay, without impeding traffic wanting to enter into the site. So that was something that the city of Whittier accepted, and we're currently getting ready to start construction on that project right now. So those 3 spots that Ryan's talking about, those are in that particular condition if you look at the map closely. So we'd like to ask for that consideration. That was all I had as far as the objections, so any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Yeah, I have one question, maybe 2 or 3. These venues that you have in your proposal, is that all you do?
I'm sorry?
Is that all you do as far as fast food restaurants and car washes?
Well, I'm doing a AT&T wireless in Austin, Texas, any type of retail. So fast food, restaurants, general retail. This will actually be my first car wash. We've done a car wash before, but.
Yeah. Well, I have a concern that this area is heavily populated with fast food restaurants and car washes. And so I was just wondering if there is any other kind of venues that you could put in there on that small lot without having to incur all these problems that you're having with not only circulation within the property, but around it.
Well, we've been under contract on this property for about 9 months now, and I've probably done, I would say, close to 100 site plans on the site. And the broker that we've hired is a very active broker in the Inland Empire, in this particular area in particular. I have we have hit the marketplace as hard as you can possibly go to the marketplace to find out what the marketplace is wanting for this particular location. The Popeye's Chicken Restaurant, we know that particular franchisee, so he wanted to be at this location. The Tire Center, they wanted to be at this location, but really for the last 6 months, we've been really working on our third tenant, and which is the car wash. The food building there, we don't have a tenant for that particular building yet. So, maybe we come back with a Verizon, AT&T or whatever, later. But right now, we're just projecting it to be a potential food building. We do have some interest from some food restaurants, sit-down type restaurants. But to answer your question, we've really explored the marketplace very aggressively to find out what the marketplace wants. We put forward a really strong marketing effort, and this is where the market's at right now.
Okay. I have an aversion to yet another fast food place there, so I'm not really in favor of another fast food restaurant at that location. And I have the same opinion as far as the car washes. And I don't have a problem with the sit-down restaurant, but everything else, I'm looking at just what's in the Menifee area, and I'm not so much concerned elsewhere, but I would wonder whether or not you could put together another team and find some more venues, because we're already being littered with fast food restaurants and car washes, and that's not, in my opinion, the kind of decorum I want to see on Newport Road. Those are just my comments.
Something to say?
Would you like
I know
to
you
go-
do. No,
Would
go
you
ahead.
like to go first?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Todd, for coming and making your presentation and potentially wanting to build here. Did I understand you right, that the corner proposed site, you're possibly a Popeyes,
Correct.
but the restaurant you don't have retained yet?
Not yet, no.
Because when you say a restaurant in this city, people get excited. And then when you say, well, if we don't get a restaurant, we might put a T-Mobile in, that's discouraging.
I was just more saying that, just to be honest, and let you know that we don't have
Okay.
a use defined for that.
And,
Once-
and on that, I am concerned about the circulation. If that was a sit-down restaurant, I counted the parking places, and it seems like there's 18 with a couple handicap extra. It seems like you have a lot of parking in the circulation in the back by the tire shop, where there needs to be more parking up by if there was a restaurant. I am concerned about the circulation of this property, and then also the access to that empty lot. I'm also agree with Commissioner Phillips about the oversaturation of car wash. Are you aware, right next door, there's a tire change facility and a car wash? And right there in that same location, that just,
Keep in mind, we're not the actual operator, so we're merely the developer that will be
Okay.
renting the space to
well,
the
that,
tenant, so.
you're coming to the workshop to see a few concerns. That would be a big concern. Oversaturation of car washes. In that area along Newport, there's several. That's a big concern. And the tire repair. So,
In that vein, can I ask you a real quick question, Lisa, of Charles? What are when we approve this, we approve it as a building, not necessarily what it's gonna be used for, correct? In other words, if he's saying a car wash, and later on, a McDonald's wants to go in there, that could go in there, right?
You would be approving the site plan, which would approve the basic footprint and use of the building. So if, as you identified there, one restaurant could be substituted for another as long as it was a sit-down and there wasn't a requirement for a different standard. If you had your drive-through, if you had your a retail building and then they wanted to go to a restaurant, that would require different standards, so you'd have to re-review that. The commission would have to look at that.
Okay.
So we are approving or tentatively talking about these uses. is my
Right.
point.
Right, and some of the things that were brought up in the presentation by staff, the tight turn there, and then the misalignment of Newport Road makes me a little bit unhappy, so.
Well, the misalignment, let's be clear on this, the misalignment of the roadway is a problem above and beyond the development of this property, because whether this property develops as they suggest or in some other EDC manner, that same road issue exists, and the city's gonna have to deal with it one way or another.
Do they take, how do they, like, can they line it up? How do they go about, like, if they wanted to line that up and this was their property, do they, the developer have
Well,
to?
if the city required that they line up center line to center line, then obviously this property would have to dedicate a significant portion of land to the city for that purpose. As the gentleman was commenting on earlier, though, there are different methods that can be utilized. Again, the example I thought of that he also commented on was simply left turn controls, so that you time them and space them so you don't have both directions trying to turn left at the same time, which creates the conflict. One does it, and then the next, and then the next, and the next, and so forth. So it's a roundabout kind of thing instead of two things happening at once. And there may be, we have experts here, we have engineers here, a traffic engineer here that may have a dozen different ways to address the issue. But yes, it is a concern that has to be addressed, but it's not specifically tied to these 4 requested uses.
So right now, there's only one entrance into the property and one exit is right off of Winterhawk? Is that,
No, there are 2.
where is the other?
You've got Wingate,
Okay, so that is,
Right.
is that road there?
they'll have to put it there.
Okay,
There's an
All right.
easement and a gravel road there now, so
Okay.
we'll be improving that.
so, and I'm just looking back, I like the idea if there was a possible access back by that tire shop. I think that would be a good idea. I just don't know how the fire department would pass this off. I would be a little concerned, so.
Yeah, I'd like, a couple concerns I have is when you mentioned, the realignment, your third choice would be to dedicate land and make it straight. As we all know, through the history of developing in Menifee, things like this did get by, and we're suffering the consequences from things that were developed 10, 20 years ago. So for the future, I would like to actually see that it's aligned straight perfectly, because we're not just approving this thing for 5 years, it's gonna be there forever. So in order to help with congestion, avoid that in the future. And my other problem with circulation, or maybe the traffic engineer, you could, I don't know what kind of study, or circulation as far as internal for delivery trucks to the businesses, because it seems like it's real tight. And when you have a tractor trailer coming to deliver tires, food to the 2 restaurants and supplies to the, it kind of concerns me, you only have that one area, and it's like it's gonna block everything during deliveries.
Deliveries will be restricted to early hours.
Okay. That's all I had.
I got a couple questions. On the Wingate, that wouldn't be lighted, right?
It would be less.
No, there would not be a signal
It'd
at
be a
that location.
Right only on there, or would that be probably?
No, that would be a standard city street, and you wouldn't put a signal that close to the signal that would already be at the other intersection.
But do we project that Newport Road there would have some kind of median so they could not do a left out there?
That I'd have to defer to traffic engineer.
Jonathan?
Yes, that's correct. There is proposed median there that would restrict the movement to be a right turn only out.
So that means that access on the southwest parcel, because there'll be no left in off of Newport, the main one will be Winter, which means we do need to have access to that southwest parcel. Otherwise, it's gonna be kind of isolated.
When's that proposed to be done, just out of curiosity?
We're in the process now of putting together the plans, so I hope it's going to be within the next year.
Built within the next year?
That's my hope.
And the other thing is, if we don't completely align Winterhawk to the north side, and we do the green arrow thing, which I think could work, however, what does that do to the traffic flow on Newport, which the volume's gonna increase, therefore, because there's whole timing of lights, you gotta work all these intersections together, because that slows it down, doesn't it?
Well, it could. I'm going to turn it over to Rafael Martinez, the traffic engineer, who knows this area pretty well.
The misalignment of Winterhawk doesn't affect Newport as much. What it does is it affects Winterhawk, because as Charles stated, perfectly correct, you'd have to split phase it, meaning one direction would have to go northbound or southbound would have to go independently of one another. You couldn't have them going at the
I
same
understand
time.
that, but you gotta work that in with the combined timing of the east and westbound north
You-
Newport Road.
You'd still give them the same amount of time. The ones who would have to bear the burden would be Winterhawk. So essentially, there is a potential for more delays on Winterhawk, whereas Newport is the major arterial, so that would be allocated its same amount of time as what we have here at Hahn.
Okay.
One more-
But again, though, it's real important to distinguish that it's not these four uses that create the problem. It's any development of the property and the need to deal with traffic that creates the problem. So I'm advising you that that intersection issue is something that can be worked out technically through the engineering department, and it is not something that should make or break the commission's decision to allow land uses on this property or not. Because whether it's these four or one other or three others or something else, something ultimately, and we want in the EDC development to take place, and so there will be development, there will be traffic, and it will have to be handled in some fashion.
The portion that Charles mentioned is correct. The road is currently misaligned, so any development that comes in here would have to address this situation, or the Public Works Department would have to address this situation because the road is currently misaligned.
As far as the road improvements with this project, would it be from Newport all the way to the end of the project, or would it go beyond it on Winterhawk and then also on Wingate Lane, or would it just go to that driveway?
We'd have to take a look at the traffic impact analysis that the applicant will provide us. But it would at least be at the frontage. If they were to come in later after we get Newport done, of course, Newport will be done, and there wouldn't be any other improvements along Newport. But the other connections that they're mentioning, the secondary connection here on Wingate and Winterhawk, there would be additional improvements there.
Okay.
But more than likely, those improvements would simply extend the length of the property and not beyond, except for the transition point between where
Typically.
their final improvements and the existing situation, you have to make the transition.
Right.
I have one other question for the traffic engineer. Coming into, off of Winterhawk, coming in that entrance there, immediately there's parking spots to the left and right. Based on speeds, and it is, it is a compact area. Have you experienced in the past parking? I'm concerned people pulling in there and then parking there. Is that?
That is not a desirable design by no means, because you're right at the entrance, people are making quick decisions. Their line of sight is not specifically to that point. In a lot of our planning that we do, we try and make long throats so that we can allow for plenty of room for drivers to make decisions, primarily when they're coming in and coming out of driveways. So that is not a desirable design that we would prefer from our standpoint.
Yeah, so my concern is the number of parking stalls and the positioning of those. I know what you're trying to do, because there's, you're trying to squish as much as you can in here to cover your costs and make this work, but it does seem a little crowded, and I wouldn't say sufficient parking, so that is my concern. What's that?
Separation of driveways. I'm just looking at this and thinking about that. I hadn't asked the question, is there an engineering concern for if they do open up what would be the westerly driveway? Can't figure out the directions. The second driveway onto Winterhawk, would that separation distance be adequate? Because if it's not, then they need to know that in order to redesign the site to be adequate and resolve the issues of dead ends.
Well, you're talking about if they were to open up the southerly driveway down below?
Correct, that was a suggestion made earlier.
Well, the thing is now, there's parking abutted right up if
Right
they were
there.
to open it there too, so that would be a problem as well.
Right, but I mean the physical separation between the two driveways themselves and the possibility of conflicts of people coming out of one driveway and trying to get into the other, and just, there's usually a minimum separation between center lines of driveways, and I don't know what this measurement might be, and I don't remember what our city's particular standard is.
That would have to be addressed by the traffic study. Typically, you want at a minimum 50 feet, but depending on the volume and the direction, the traffic study would illustrate whether it is feasible or not.
Okay, so this is way more than 50 feet, so this is several hundred feet. It looks like 200, 300, 400 feet. Okay, so then their traffic report would simply address it. All right.
How would, he had mentioned some kind of a reimbursement agreement on the development of the southwestern plot. We can't put any kind of COA on that plot, right, for any kind of reimbursement to him for access there? We can only put it on him as he's developing right now.
No, we could, when this property, when this other corner develops, we can put a condition of approval that they work with this owner in order to create access through there to improve the overall circulation for all the properties involved here. And as I mentioned, the downside for them is loss of parking spaces. The upside would be in that condition, a requirement that says that they compensate for those lost parking spaces by putting the parking spaces on their property and having an ingress and egress and shared parking agreement. We would also put a condition of approval on them to cooperate in the future with a future developer to allow that situation to be created. What we're looking at is trying to improve the overall circulation of these four properties and how they intermix with each other and how they intermix with the roadway system that the city has.
It seems like one of the concerns that was brought up was also aesthetics, and I, just like Commissioner Thomas said, it just looks like just a little bit, you're just trying to squish so much in there. There's not even a divider, planters coming in and out. It's a little bit of concerns there.
Well, you've got three narrow presentations to Newport Avenue, our major thoroughfare within the community. You've got a fast food restaurant right on the corner, you've got another restaurant, and then you've got another drive-through facility, and they're all lined up perpendicular to the roadway, so you're only getting the narrow end of the building. There are, because clearly there can be physical, berming and landscaping and other things, but normally you have a resistance to that because then it limits the exposure of the building to the public. So you've got to ultimately come up with a balance between the two of those. One question that I had, and I hate to put you on the spot, but I have to let the commission know this too. If this sit-down restaurant, if you can't find a tenant for that, you're going to want to have some other use for that. That could be retail, but it could also be a third drive-through. You may want to consider, and they may want to know right now, would that be something acceptable by the commission, or would the commission impose a condition that says you can have another kind of use? You can either have another sit-down restaurant or a different configuration for a sit-down restaurant or a retail operation there, but not another drive-through. Or if another drive-through would be acceptable, they might as well know now so that if the sit-down falls through, they know what they can market to in searching for a tenant for that space.
Well, I'd also like to say, just by taking a second look at this whole plan, it's been mentioned by a couple other people. Yeah, I really don't see where they've drawn in any landscape, and I think correct me if I'm wrong, but our standard is like 15% or something has to be dedicated for landscaping, 13 to 15%. And I don't see anywhere on here that there's room for landscaping or for BMPs or bioswales for the wastewater, that the runoff to come from there. There's gonna have to be some land dedicated for that, and I don't see anything there. So I think like Commissioner Thomas and,
We understand we'll have to do landscaping and whatever detention and retention needs to be done. This is merely the workshop, so
Right.
once we do more detailed set of plans, it'll show all that.
And you do have that cross-hatched area in front of, or next to Newport that would be available for the landscaping, and your code requires the 50% of shade coverage over your parking area, so they're gonna have to have landscaping that can provide that. So, yes, it's a detail that would be worked out in the future, but we ask that the applicant go through this effort in order to get input from the commission on the basic concepts of the site. So details will follow if they choose to move forward once they've got this input from the commission.
Well, and from your question, if they could not secure a sit-down restaurant, I would not feel comfortable having another fast food chain restaurant. What we're hearing in the community, what we hear from the residents, they want nice sit-down restaurants. And this, the car wash next to a restaurant, it's just doesn't seem real pleasing combination there as well. I kind of wish the restaurant was turned facing Newport and not vertical that way. Wish it was more horizontal.
Yeah, unfortunately, the nature of the site is just a longer, narrow
Well-
piece of property that we're trying to work with.
Yeah, I just didn't think it was real business friendly to the neighboring businesses to bring in the same thing that's already there. Menifee Mobile's been there for a while, so,
Could you possibly I know you've done 100 configurations and you've run this through on CAD/CAM or whatever a million times. So it'd be nice to see, though, a couple other iterations that would mathematically, financially work other than this one.
This is the only one that works. I mean, if we had others, I'd certainly be happy to present them, but it has to work not only from a physical, site plan perspective, but from a marketplace demand perspective. When I say marketplace, meaning the tenant that's gonna actually, move into the building once we build it. Yeah, I agree with you. We would love to have a sit-down restaurant, and believe me, if you know of anyone that wants to be on the site, please let me know.
Well,
You can contact our Economic Development
Yeah.
Department.
Yeah,
and-
back there.
And, Mr. Chairman, I apologize, and Commissioner Sobek, I truly apologize, but because of the hour, and we may or may not, I don't know if we do, have people in the audience that may want to address this as well. And since we'll have our regular meeting beginning at 7 o'clock, I want to make sure that you give them the opportunity to address the commission.
One quick comment, though. I'm grateful you're seeking to develop it. This has been kind of a hole in that area that hasn't been developed for a long time, so we know you're taking a lot of hurdles and risks in doing this, so we're happy. Just want you to know, we've been nitpicking at you, but we want it developed. And we're
Appreciate
just-
that.
if you talk to anybody who's come into the city, we've been holding the fire to everybody, and we don't make a lot of people happy. But in the end, we end up with a very beautiful project. Just so you know,
Quality.
that's the direction we're going.
quality,
We want you here.
Thank you.
Okay.
but not cookie cutter. Same thing.
thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, if there's anyone that would like to speak on this, be happy to have you.
If you could, sir, just fill out a comment card when you leave and hand it to me. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Christopher. I live in Faircrest community, just across the street from this development. First of all, I want to say that definitely not in favor of the fast food restaurant, definitely not in favor of the car wash, and definitely not in favor of the tire place. We already have too many car wash, fast food restaurants in the city of Menifee, especially on Newport. The next thing, Winterhawk, that's how I come out every day to go to work. It's a pain in the neck, turning left or right. That road definitely needs to be aligned. Parking, couple areas that we have issues with. I don't know what happened in the past, but like Applebee's, the parking lot is too small for that development. And Bradley, where all those car businesses are, parking lot is too small. This just seemed to be like another project where we're gonna have 4 big businesses there and not enough parking for everybody. Okay, so definitely something needs to be done with the parking. The lot size, I think they're just trying to squeeze in too many businesses for that small area. It's gonna be a pain in the neck when those areas get developed. I'm trying to come out of come out of Winterhawk, trying to turn on to Newport, and with everybody there going into those businesses, it's just gonna be a pain in the neck trying to get out of there. Then the last thing is the view. One of the commissioners said, on Newport, if you're looking at the buildings, I mean, they're all sideways. I mean, I want it to be something nice as I come to Winterhawk and Newport and I look across the street, I can say, oh, there's some nice restaurant. I don't want to see the side of the building. So I don't know. I think this project was just, I don't know, I'm sure they had put a lot of effort into it, but it just seems like it's just, hey, let's develop this area, whatever can fit in there. It don't need to be rushed. I've been sitting there like that for years. I've been living in Menifee since 2003. Hey, it could sit there like that for another 5 years. We just need something nice in there. We just don't need to squeeze something in there because there's an open spot. So I appreciate you guys allowing me to express my view, but I'm definitely at this moment, how it looks, I'm definitely not in favor of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more speakers?
Anybody wishing to speak, if you could fill out a comment form on the back table and hand it to me, please.
I have a concern.
Can you state your name, sir?
I'm Edward Germo, and I'm not good at public speaking, so forgive me for that. But like he was saying with the parking spaces and this is for you guys mostly. I drive a full-size pickup truck. I don't know if anybody else around here does, but parking in any of our new developments is a task, quite a task. There's no room to open doors. It's do this to get into the parking spots. So that's a big concern of mine is they build another place with more buildings than parking, so they squish all the parking places tight together, and you can't get your trucks in there. I mean, it works fine for Priuses and Hondas and Toyotas and all that stuff, and there's people that got bigger trucks than mine. So parking is a big concern of mine. I deal with it every day when I go into these the older shopping centers, like the one on across Hahn Road, it's sufficient. There's lots of parking. The small ones, like right here where Applebee's is at, it takes me 5 minutes to find a parking place and then 5 minutes to get my truck in there. So just a concern of mine, and I'm sure probably a lot of other truck owners' concerns.
Thank you for speaking up. Was there any other speakers? With that being said, I believe it's time to close the workshop.
If there's no more discussion or no more closing comments from any of the commissioners, then I don't think we have time to work on the development code tonight. And so, yes, you would close the workshop.
So we're closing the workshop and we'll recess for 10 minutes.
Can I talk to you?
It's 7:03. We'll call this meeting to order, the City of Menifee Planning Commission, regular meeting, December 10th, 2014. Could we have the roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Phillips. Commissioner Sobek.
Here?
Commissioner Thomas.
Here.
Chair Metalko.
Here. I'd like if everyone could stand for the flag salute, please. Right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any agenda approvals or modifications?
No, sir.
Thank you. Any presentations?
No, sir.
Public comments?
Yes, we do. Lisa Almendarez.
Hello. My name is Lisa Almendarez. I've been living in Menifee for 17 years, a homeowner for 14. I have 2 children. One was honorable discharge from the military.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you pull the mic
Yes,
down
I
so we
was
can hear
gonna
you?
say.
Thank you.
Thank
Pull it towards you. There you go. Thank you.
My first son had honorable discharge from the military for Crohn's disease. He is 30 now. My second child is 11, and he gets severe migraines. That being said, my concerns here are we do not have one health food store in this whole town. There's no organics. There's no essential oils, homeopathic, any of that being developed here. And I was concerned that there's not going to be, and I was wondering if there will be. No?
Oh,
Okay, well, I'm looking at your,
we're not allowed to have back
you
and,
what?
we're not allowed to have back
Oh,
and
you're
forth.
not? Oh,
No.
I'm sorry.
No.
We're sorry.
Okay, then, right here on your website, I noticed that, we're getting another Chili's, Buffalo Wings, El Polo Loco, Sonic Drive-In restaurants. I know we're getting at Ald's, but that's not an organic store. I just think that for me, I have to drive to Temecula, and I know I'm not the only one out here that eats living clean as a lifestyle. And I do have to drive to Temecula a lot just to feed my family on what is real food. And so I think that somewhere we should put that in our planning and get a health food store and stop these drive-throughs and stop these restaurants. And you have more going up on this list that I'm looking at. And it really concerns me because I can't go out to eat when I don't want to cook at home. And we get sick when we go out to eat because we live this lifestyle so that my children can be healthy. So I made a list of all the organic places that we could put into this town. And I think that it would only bring our town up and give people like me, which I think there's a lot of them, more choices. We're very limited here in this town. Anyways, okay,
I suggest
thank
you
you.
speak to the gentleman
Yes.
in the suit right there.
Yes.
He's our economic development director, and he'll tell you when and how these will come.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Now?
Mr.
Go talk to him.
Yeah, Mr. Wyman, would you explain to her how that happens a little bit?
Thank you for your
Thank you.
comments.
Thank you.
Next
Thank
speak-
you very much.
Randall Brown? Randall Brown? Okay, Bonnie Brown.
Bonnie Brown.
I want to apologize for one thing. I thought it was city council meeting tonight, okay? So, but I didn't want to waste our time and our efforts. And I want to, and you've got something in front of each one of you to the city council 3 weeks ago, I believe. And I want to thank you all for your time. I was prepared to speak to the city council about this on the November 19th. But I got an email from Tamara in planning and said they were willing to meet with us, Charles Leclerc, Lisa Gordon, and Tamara, on the 20th to resolve the issues that I've had with this solar. I'm trying to put a solar rack in with 60 panels, making a carport in my home and my business. I received a permit for an upgraded electrical panel for solar, and TGY, my solar company, got a permit to install 60 solars. But I have yet got permission to receive a permit for the rack that the solar has to go on. On 9/18, I had to give the city $2,500 for a minor plot plan to consider the solar rack. I asked for a running balance on 9/19 from the accounting department. I was asked to call back on October 3rd when there would actually be activity on the account. I called on October 3rd and I left a message that I wanted a running balance. When I did not receive that answer, I asked Tamara to provide that running balance. I have been told many things that start with, one of the things I asked Tamara, how I met with you, Charles Leclerc, and Lisa. How do you bill me? Do you bill me $109 an hour for each of you, or just one of you, or what? Well, I don't think that Charles Leclerc charges you, and I don't think that Lisa does, but I do. Okay, and I've been told that I needed to cover the accessory building, which is what the solar rack falls under, with trees to hide it from the freeway. Well, doesn't make too much sense. Okay, then I was told by tomorrow that I could put up 120 square foot carports all along the parking lot to hold these 60 solar panels. But that looks like, and I've told you before, it looks like a swap meet. Okay, so I've also been told I could go ahead and not even go through this process and put in ground-mounted solar in my parking lot, which leaves me 3 parking spaces. Okay, at the planning meeting on November 20th, Glenn Warderman and I met with Charles Leclerc, Lisa Gordon, and Tamara Harrison. The problems that had accumulated over the last 10 weeks prior to this meeting were replaced with, we have a land use problem. We asked how it could be resolved, and Lisa Gordon said, I believe it's a major plot plan with a $5,500 deposit. Charles Leclerc then said, the city council has asked us to come
Brown,
up.
that is your time. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Randall Brown?
My name's Randall Brown. Lisa Gordon said, I believe it is a major pot plan with a $5,500 deposit. Charles Leclerc said, the city council has asked us to come up with an application process for properties like yours, and should be about $375. He said we will allow you to go forward with your project and give you ample time to come into compliance while we work through the application process. You will receive a letter from our attorney in the next couple days. We have not received a letter yet or a running balance on the $2,500. All I can see here is that the city is fighting small business, not helping. Our country wants to grow green while our city is fighting that too. Looks like the city is trying to bleed small business dry by fees to think about it, think about granting a permit, and cannot account for where the fees go. Murrieta City has a department to help small businesses and support them. Everyone is for solar energy except our city. Our country was grown by small business, by making small business into big business. Thank you for your time. I wish I could thank you for your help.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have no further speakers on this item.
Thank you. That'll move us on to the approval of the meetings of last meeting.
You did, I'm sorry. I apologize. Katie Manier, it was up here. It was nothing bashful about me, sorry.
Well, I want to say tonight, I think it's a sad night for our city. We're losing a planning commissioner that we really shouldn't be losing. Mr. Metalco, I want to thank you for your honesty and integrity while you were on the planning commission. You were the only one to be concerned enough about the health and safety of the people to tell the truth about toxic waste being dumped in this city. And I challenge everyone here tonight to go home and look up toxic waste and sludge in this city and see what's gone on here. And then we have all the developers here in their fancy Orange County suits wanting to dig up the soil and build more. You actually talked extensively with Mr. Leesmeyer on several occasions, giving him all the information he needed to act on that. And yet he did nothing. And certainly, now that he's a council member and taking orders from our mayor, there will be no honesty or accurate information to protect the people. We have no health department. We have nobody concerned about dust when they stir it up in this city. They are first interested in bringing more money to the city, and the hell with people who are sick and dying. Maybe as a private citizen you will continue that fight, but whatever you do, know that I applaud you for trying to make honest people out of the liars that run this city. Ms. Sobeck, I'm sorry you were one of the dishonest ones. You knew the truth about Scott Mann and did nothing, didn't speak up. I don't know how you can sleep at night with yourself knowing that he was a liar and a cheat and dishonest, and yet you stood by him. I think he elected you to that post so he would get the votes of the church. Now he's got the votes, he's back in again, and we've got a few more years of rotten government in this city. And thank you, Mark.
Thank you for your comments.
Now I have no further comments, sir.
Thank you. That'll move us on to 7.1, the meeting minutes of November 25th, 2014. Do I have a motion?
I move that we accept the meetings as written.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
I have a second.
All
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I cannot vote.
And we'll note that Commissioner
Oh,
Sobek
Commissioner Sobek was absent.
abstained,
That's correct.
yes. Thank you. It takes us to the consent calendar, which there's nothing on the consent calendar. 9.1, the public hearing for specific plan amendment number 2012-15.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for that. We have Russell Brady here to give you staff presentation on this item.
Thank you, Russell Brady, presenting on behalf of staff, agenda item number 9.1. This item was previously at the October 8th and November 12th Planning Commission hearings, where it was continued to December 10th to allow additional time for the applicant to revise plans to meet the comments of the Planning Commission, primarily to shift the LA Fitness further back and out parcel 1 to shift closer to Antelope Road. Some other comments were made by the Planning Commission as well as the public at those hearings. So at this time, staff recommends continuance. In discussions with the applicant today, we are recommending January 14th, the first Planning Commission meeting in January, to continue to. Staff also has some of the information requested as pictures of hotels in the Temecula and Murrieta areas that I believe Commissioner Sobek had requested at the last hearing, if so desired to look at.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Does this extension, is that based, is the date of that extension based upon the applicant submitting plans?
As of now, we haven't received a formal submittal of the revised plans. We anticipate within the next couple of days receiving that resubmittal so that we can distribute it and review it as staff, so that by the January 14th hearing, we would have ideally sufficient time as staff to digest it and give our opinion on it. And that at the January 14th, the Planning Commission can also look at it. And so in total, we can all give our opinions on it and either make a decision on January 14th or give more precise direction on that plan.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Since it's already been recommended to continue the item, do we have to open the public hearing, just continue, ask for motion to continue the item?
You have a open, continued public hearing. You have the opportunity to open it and receive public comment if you want, or you can open it and ask for continuance to a date certain, which we are recommending as January 14th.
Okay, do I have a motion for continuance?
So moved.
Before we do that, do we have anyone else?
We don't have any speakers,
No
sir.
speakers,
No.
okay.
Where's he gonna show the hotels?
That real quick.
We were able to get them from Google Earth fairly easily. Fortunately, only a few of them show up well on Google Earth. This is one of the first ones that the Quality Inn Temecula 3 stories and 73 rooms. Second one, the Fairfield Inn and Suites in Temecula, 3 stories and 94 rooms. Third one, Extended Stay America, Temecula, 3 stories and 107 rooms. And the one 4-story hotel we were able to find was Embassy Suites, located off Rancho, California, in Temecula, 4 stories and with 176 rooms. And to note, just for relationship, the hotel currently proposed is 4 stories with a maximum height of 45 feet and includes 70 rooms.
I know in Temecula, there's also the Hampton Inn, is 3 stories, and there's another
The
one.
Marriott.
The Marriott.
There's 2 Marriotts. I believe this one's 4 stories, but you cannot see it from the freeway. It sits down in a lower
Oh,
hole, right? So you can't even see this one from the freeway hardly, except that maybe the rooftop. So, and that's the only 4-story. Okay.
Oh, before we continue, I'd just like to ask the clerk to confirm that the notice was legally published and if any additional correspondence was received.
Yes, it was originally published when we first heard the item,
Okay,
and it was left opened at each meeting, so we didn't have to republish.
okay. So again, I believe Commissioner Phillips made a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
And we have a second from Commissioner Sobek.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
we have to take a roll call, don't we? Or
No, not
Oh,
on
we
that,
don't?
because there's no decision. You're
Oh,
just
okay.
continuing it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so aye.
So then that would move us to item 9.2, public hearing for plot plan 2014-091.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Russell Brady will again give that staff report on this item for the plot plan, the conditional use permit, the tentative parcel map variance for the shops at the lakes. Prior to that, though, I want to make sure that we make one house cleaning correction. In the legal ad for tonight's meeting, it referenced that this, you would make a determination and then forward a recommendation to the city council for final action. That is not technically correct. You have the opportunity to make a final decision on all the items that are before you tonight. That technical error in that legal ad, however, does not, under the government code, negate or require a re-advertisement of this hearing. And it also, if individuals are not satisfied with the decision tonight, whether it's the applicant or anyone else, they always have the right of appeal that's established in the code.
Thank you
With
for that clarification.
Thank you, Russell Brady, presenting on behalf of staff, agenda item number 9.2, consisting of plot plan 2014-091, CUP 2014-092, parcel map 2014-093, and variance 2014-195. Here showing the project location located southerly of Newport, easterly of Menifee Road, northerly of Rockport, and westerly of Laguna Vista. The existing zoning on the site is specific plan Menifee East, specific plan Area 1, which designates the site for commercial use. Surrounding zoning includes the Menifee Villages specific plan, as well as the Menifee East specific plan to the north and south, with commercial designations designated to the north, to the south, medium residential, east, very high density residential and daycare, and west, commercial and school. Land use of the site is currently vacant, to the north vacant, south single-family residential, east vacant, and to the west vacant, and the elementary school, the Callie Kirkpatrick School. The plot plan proposes a total of 121,277 square feet of a commercial retail center consisting of 10 buildings on approximately 14 acres. Development of the center is proposed in 2 phases, with the majority of the site proposed in phase 1, with the southeast portion of the center consisting of 2 buildings within phase 2. The detention basin in the southeast corner of the center would be developed with phase 1. All road improvements would be completed with phase 1, as well as the majority of on-site parking area and drive aisles. The buildings would consist of a 45,112 square foot grocery store, which this time it would be occupied by Stater Brothers. 4 shops buildings totaling 40,946 square feet. 5 pad buildings totaling 35,219 square feet, one of which would be occupied by CVS. The plot plan also includes a sign program, which includes 2 20-foot tall monument signs, 3 8-foot tall secondary monument signs, a corner monument sign, as well as design standards and guidelines for other signs within the center. A variance is included specifically to address the signs included within the plot plan, and the variance requests the following: to allow 3 additional freestanding signs in addition to the 3 typically allowed by the code in the specific plan, as well as allow for an additional 9.4 square feet of surface area beyond the 100 square feet allowed for a second freestanding sign, and allow signs to encroach into the 15-foot setback from property line established by the specific plan. The conditional use permit proposes to allow the sale of beer, wine, and distilled spirits for off-premises consumption associated with the CVS building. The tentative parcel map proposes Schedule E subdivision of 14 acres into 13 parcels for commercial purposes. Here's showing the site or landscape plan. Here you can see the Stater Brothers located within the southwest portion of the site, CVS located here, and then pad and shop buildings scattered across the site. Phase 2 would generally consist of this area here within the southeast portion of the site, and the detention basin at the southeast corner at Rockport and Laguna Vista. As noted here, not totally clear here on the PowerPoint, but approximately 6 palm trees within the median on Laguna Vista would be removed to accommodate the left turn lane pocket into the driveway on Laguna Vista, and then 2 of the existing trees along the west side of Laguna Vista would also be removed to accommodate the driveway there. Just to show a sample of some of the architecture, here the Stater Brothers, the north elevation is the front for Stater Brothers, as well as shops 2 adjacent to that. And you can see here just on the reference map where that's located. Through planning staff's review of the project, we did highlight a few issues. We've noted these in the staff report, and so we'll just kind of highlight some of those here. Looking at the rear of shops 2 and 3, plan staff did request additional enhancement of these, since these would be visible, or at least partially visible, from Rockport Road and potentially the residences further south of Rockport Road. As a sample, staff was requesting similar treatment as is on the back of the Stater Brothers building, which also faces Rockport Road, including some of the tile work shown here, as well as some of the columns and archways. Similarly, staff requested additional enhancement to the rear of the CVS building. Since the CVS building is located somewhat central to the site, the rear of the buildings would be highly visible from persons on the site. And again, we would be looking at similar treatments as the back of Stater Brothers. The inside of the, essentially the tower architectural feature on the CVS has been treated with a similar paint as the primary exterior of the building. However, no additional treatment or structure to the tower is included. Pad B, which is located at the northwest corner, a very visible corner for the center. As shown here, the architecture for the center. However, looking at the floor plan, you kind of get a feel for there's not a lot of articulation to the building. So plan staff did request that this building included additional articulation, which has yet to be included for this building. Looking at Pad B again, very visible from the corner. Looking at this as a drive-through. The drive-through design for this in particular exposes a lot of drive-through area that could be visible. You'd also have vehicle height structures, menu board structures, and possibly other structures associated with fast food drive-through that would be located in this area that could be visible. The applicant does include a 36 or 3-foot tall hedge that would generally be along the perimeter of the project that would partially screen some of these features. In addition, there is the corner monument sign located here, which would provide some screening as well. The applicant does have a presentation that includes some of the renderings of the site, which will kind of expand on a little bit on this so you can see some of those visuals. Here showing the elevation for the corner monument sign that could provide some screening.
That's the corner?
That's the corner monument sign, correct. The landscape plan for the center There are existing London plane trees along Newport Road, which would generally be preserved, excluding some of the driveway entrances. The applicant, in order to preserve some of the views onto the site of the buildings, the applicant did not wish to include additional trees along the frontage for Newport Road because it would, in essence, provide too much screening of the center that would block some of the buildings and signs for passing traffic. Some of the lighting fixtures, originally the applicant did propose very basic shoebox style lighting. They have a revision to that would include standard lighting across the majority of the site as shown here, as well as some themed lighting at entrances and major intersections within the center. Here shown on the fixtures on the left and the center were two proposed by the applicant for consideration by the Planning Commission, and the one on the right is one that staff identified as potentially appropriate for the site for the Planning Commission to consider to approve with this project. To highlight some of the items on the variance, per Ordinance 348 and the Menifee East specific plan, the project would typically be allowed a maximum of 3 freestanding signs. The project proposes a total of 6 freestanding signs. As noted, the 2 20-foot tall monument signs, 3 8-foot tall secondary monument signs, and 1 corner monument sign. The applicant is requesting approval of the variance to allow the 6 freestanding signs. As noted in the resolution for this is a somewhat typical variance that we experience here at the city due to the size of the center as well as the visibility inherent when you have such a large size shopping center. Here showing the location of the signs. In blue, the 20-foot tall monument signs, orange, the corner monument sign, and green, the 3 secondary 8-foot tall monument signs. To note also here, in red shows the conceptual location of wall-mounted signs. Included in the sign program also is a restriction of any signs facing Rockport Road that would potentially impact the Rockport Road or the residences south of Rockport Road. Here showing some of the signs, the 20-foot tall monument sign that would be located on Menifee Road and Newport Road, and the 2 secondary signs as well as the corner monument sign as previously shown. The second item for the variance, per the code, 1 freestanding sign is allowed a maximum sign area of 200 square feet, whereas a second one would be allowed a maximum sign area of 100 square feet. The project proposes 2 20-foot tall freestanding signs, both with sign areas of 109.4 square feet. With this proposal, the second monument sign would exceed the Ordinance 348 requirements of a maximum of 100 square feet. So the variance would allow the second 20-foot tall freestanding sign to exceed the limitation of 100 square feet. In essence, the project is reducing what they would be allowed at 200 square feet for the first one by proposing just 2 at just over 100 square feet, if that makes sense. And again, just to show the design of that 20-foot tall sign. The third item for the variance, the specific plan requires that monument signs be set back a minimum of 15 feet from the sidewalk or property line. The proposed corner monument sign is proposed to be located approximately 3 feet from the property line at the corner. Other freestanding monument signs would be located adjacent to the property line with no setback.
Can you explain that, like on the Newport Road entrance? I'm seeing a monument sign right there. It looks like it's 20 feet back from the curb. But you're saying it's right along the property line is, because there's those trees that are going along Newport there. So the blue right there at M2. So there's already a setback, at least according to this, 20 feet, right?
The reduction in setback is only for the CM1, the corner monument sign.
Oh.
And that's because of the corner cutoff that moves that setback, moves that the line where the public right-of-way is significantly closer to that signage.
So in the case of the corner monument sign, if they were to comply with the 15-foot setback, that would require them setting it back 12 feet further, which as you can see here, right now it's set back 48 feet from the curb, so that would then require it set back 60 feet from the curb, which is quite a bit from a visibility standpoint to make that not only just visible, but also a very a prominent feature that adds to the center.
So, Dr. Charles about this earlier, on the AMPM across the street, how far back, there is a drainage or something right in there. How far back is that sign though? Do you remember how back it ended up?
I don't recall, but it was similar to this proposal. That's a different specific plan across the street, so
Yeah.
they did not necessarily have this requirement on
Yeah,
their
I just
property.
wondered visually what the difference is. Okay.
Looking at outdoor public seating, the project already does include outdoor seating areas adjacent to Pad A, Shops 1, and Shops 2. In discussions with the applicant, they prepared a reference exhibit to consider some additional outdoor seating areas for discussion by the commission. In total, these areas for consideration total a little over 10,000 square feet of outdoor seating area. Each one has its benefits that we can kind of go through and discuss. No amenities are proposed this time, but that's another item we can go over to consider what amenities the Planning Commission may want to see in each of the areas. Looking at the entire site, you can see here where each of the outdoor seating areas are proposed, A through H. Looking at areas A and F, these were areas already included on the site plan, 800 square feet and 1,300 square feet respectively. These would be closely associated with the adjacent tenants, which could be coffee shops or restaurants, and could potentially be fenced in for patios related to those uses or tenants. Areas B and C would be on either side of the entrances for Stater Brothers. These are fairly small areas and could accommodate small benches or table areas at most, but really wouldn't be able to function as a true gathering area. Area D is an expansion of a previously included area, which would total 2,698 square feet, which is a fairly sizable area. This expansion would remove 4 parking spaces that were located off of this drive aisle here. This is a fairly good location for it, given that it's central to the site, as well as it's located adjacent to the Shops 2, which could include restaurant or other attractive type uses. Areas E and G, these areas are located kind of in the middle of the parking areas, not located adjacent to any of the buildings, so they're less desirable from a gathering area for people to go to. And lastly, Area H, located at the northeast corner of the site, adjacent to Pad E, I believe it is. Similar to Shops 2 and Area D, this is easily accessed on the site and is located adjacent to a building which could accommodate a restaurant or similar uses. To note on the conditional use permit, the CUP is required for the CVS, which proposes sale of beer and wine and distilled spirits, since the building area is less than 20,000 square feet. Per information from California ABC, the census tract is currently at its capacity for licenses for offset sales. Therefore, for California ABC to be able to approve of off-site sale license for CVS, findings of public necessity and convenience are included in the findings for the approval of the CUP. To note also, Menifee Union School District was contacted, and they have no comments on the conditional use permit. And also to note that the CVS isn't categorized as a liquor store or convenience store. That would be subject to the 500-foot buffer requirements per city code. Since the preparation of the staff report, staff has been in discussions with the applicant on certain conditions of approval that they've requested revision to. Just to highlight a few of those, plot plan condition number 16, titled No Second Floor. Stater Brothers and CVS would potentially have second floor areas that aren't included in the project's current maximum square footage calculations. If second floor were included with those per the current conditions of approval, that would require a revised permit or similar to essentially increase the square footage for the center and those buildings, and would also have to provide justification that sufficient parking is provided. The Planning Commission may discuss as far as the uses included here, which would include minor office, storage, or break rooms within these second floors, as far as whether the require for a revised permit may be necessary, and may want to look at the revision to this condition of approval. Plot plan condition number 60, HVAC noise. This was clarified to encourage rather than require, since the noise study does not require certain power noise levels for the roof-mounted equipment. Plot plan COA 62 regarding cart corrals. Staff requested higher quality, more permanent design for the cart corrals. The applicant requests that non-permanent cart corrals to provide flexibility and to limit maintenance and liability from permanent features such as curbs, which are seen as trip hazards. Plot plan conditions 64 and 85. These were regarding the security system and cameras. This was revised to clarify the minimum required by the sheriff, in particular that the license plate recognition function of the cameras is not a requirement. Conditional use permit condition 14 regarding the alcohol sales. This was revised to clarify that education is primarily the responsibility of the tenant and their management, basically CVS, but the property owner would still ultimately be responsible. Plot plan conditions 147 and 148 and parcel map COA 39. These were regarding road improvements and traffic signal fair share. These were revised and clarified to match up with the traffic study and the review process of the project through engineering. In addition to these, there were other minor type corrections that staff has made. These revisions to the conditions have been provided to the Commission in detail if there are any other questions on these. Based on that and the revised conditions, staff recommends adoption of resolution number PC 14-192, adopting a mitigated negative declaration for the project, adoption of resolutions approving the plot plan, conditional use permit, variance, and the parcel map. This concludes staff's presentation. Available for any questions and discussion the Commission may have at this time.
Does the Commission have any questions of staff?
Yes, I have one question. The variance that is connected with those signs, it seems like there's too many signs in that area. I have a problem with 3 more signs other than what was already approved under the ordinance. I cannot see, maybe I need to, for somebody to explain why we have to have all these extra signs. That's just too many signs. I don't mind the 3, but the rest of them just doesn't make any sense to me.
Since we're in the question provision part of this discussion, you're asking staff to support its recommendation of approval. We believe that the staff report identifies that our current code is maybe a little bit out of date and maybe needs to be updated in order to have more appropriate signage allowances for shopping centers of this size. Other than that response, we would defer that to the applicant and let them explain why they believe the number of signs and the sizes of signs that they are proposing are appropriate for this site.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? I have one more with the signs. I would assume that the monument signs are lit. How about the signs that are on the building? Are those also going to be lit, or some are, some aren't?
They would be lit.
And then, of course, under the Palomar Lighting District, it's low-level lighting and all that?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
A question on pad B. You had mentioned, you suggested to the applicant more articulation, more different design structure. What was the response to that?
Partially, I would probably defer to the applicant as far as what their exact view is on that. Generally, as far as the pad buildings, the idea is that certain tenants would come in that would ultimately revise some of these elevations anyways. And so the thought is to kind of come in with just a fairly, I say basic, but a minimum standard for elevations for that building.
Russell, I had that written down as a note, so I'm glad you addressed it. Some of the buildings seem to be four-sided. They're going to be affected by all directions in that parking area. I did have, just on one of the monument signs, the one that's on Menifee Road, the 20-foot sign on Menifee, that's going to be right, is it going to be right across the street from the Menifee Union School District office, or Callie Kirkpatrick, or is it the daycare center? Because I just was concerned about that 20-foot tall monument sign right there on Menifee Road.
The location
Because what's across the street.
The location of the sign as shown here on the plan, if I get my pointer.
Right.
The property line for the elementary school is approximately right here, and so the monument sign would be located further north of that. To note also the applicant's rendering as far as they can fly through the site, so they can show a little better as far as what that view would be of the sign basically from the elementary school.
I would just, I'd feel more comfortable if that was a lower monument sign. I'm sure the applicant will address that, so.
I have a traffic question. What is the speed rating on Newport here heading east? Is that 45, 50?
We would have to defer to the city engineer and traffic engineer.
And this location, it's a 55 mile per hour zone.
Okay. So it looks like we got 3 lanes coming east. Is the right lane considered a deceleration, or to get it turned in there?
No, it's considered a through lane. So it's 3 lanes in the eastbound, 3 lanes in the westbound.
In speaking with some folks, the concern is we're putting in all these, the cloverleaf on Newport, the interchange. We're doing everything to speed up the flow, getting people off the freeway and heading east, at least on these lanes. And then there's thousands of homes going in to the east over here. They're gonna be using this as a way onto the freeway and back home. I'm wondering if this turn-in is gonna slow that down, and if it's appropriate to have perhaps in here, a deceleration zone or lane or something, so that the rest of the traffic can keep up the high speeds.
The applicant's traffic engineer is here, so he can go into more detail, but we did have them analyze this, not only from a calculation standpoint, but from a simulation standpoint. And from our observations, we did not observe any congestion or any slowdown at the driveway locations or the adjacent intersections due to the volumes at opening year or at build out.
And then, thank you. Then another question on, you were saying you were requesting certain improvements on the sides and backs of the various buildings. Did that, on these for example, in shop 1 here, where it's adjacent to Menifee Road, is that, the back of it is facing Menifee, is it intended to have any kind of windows or anything, or is that strictly the back of a building and you were including those architectural improvements on that as well? Basically, we got the butt of a building facing a main road here.
Here showing the elevations for shops 1, as you noted, the west Menifee Road elevation on the top there includes the trellis, the recesses in there.
Would those trellises include landscape going up them?
Correct.
Okay.
Through staff's review, we required that vine plantings be located wherever the trellis locations are on the buildings.
Chris brought up about the traffic flow. I was a little bit concerned with an extra traffic light right there. There's already, on Laguna Vista, there's already a traffic light. And with the traffic going 50, 55 miles an hour, which they actually go faster than that, I'm sure, down there, having that extra light so close to Menifee and so close to Laguna Vista. And so maybe we need to hear from the experts, engineering on that, because I'm familiar with that area. It makes me really nervous.
Understood, very familiar with the concern, and we've been questioned many times on it and spent a lot of time on that analysis. I'm going to turn it over to Raphael, and he can explain that.
Essentially, what we are having the applicant do is interconnect all these signals together, so they're going to be communicating. So at any given time, there is going to be minimizing the amount of conflicts because the intersections are going to be synchronized. So the problem occurs at traffic intersections when all of a sudden you get a green light and then the next signal you get a red light. People tend to observe and in their mind get the feeling of, I need to keep on going forward if there are close intersections. That's why you need to have good communication and interconnect between those signals. And we are having the applicant apply that and having these intersections communicate so that that conflict and potential would be minimized.
Okay. And with this entrance, this added entrance into the center, I see it's only on the south side of Newport. Would that be a possibility, it being extended on the north side as well?
Yes, it is.
Because I know there's a future shopping center in
If there is a future potential developer that wants to develop on that area, they will have the option, yes, of connecting to that. And we prefer it rather than opening up another access anywhere in between these signals. We'd probably mandate that they utilize one of these two locations at this point.
All right. So with adding this entrance, you're doing less disturbance of Laguna Vista Drive? Because I know I've heard from a few residents, they were concerned about losing their palm trees. Can you explain that to me?
I can't elaborate on the palm trees, but that is true in terms of, yes, by allowing this driveway access, we are going to be minimizing the Laguna Vista Drive traffic congestion volume. So it is a benefit to Newport Road, it is a benefit to Laguna Vista, and it's a benefit to the development because it distributes the volume and not concentrates it in one location. When you concentrate the volume, that's when you get congestion, you get backup, and then you get frustration, and then that's when you get accidents.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Yeah, I have one more for staff. I was wondering if you could, when I was looking at the plans, I looked at this, is this a roundabout? I wasn't sure this turn right there, is that, can you explain? I was trying to figure that out in the plans, how that works.
That's the circle shown there is for the truck turnaround radius. Since that's the loading area for Stater Brothers, they would have large trucks there, so as to show the truck turning radius for that area.
Okay, so that is not for automobiles shopping there to go in and turn around?
No, we wouldn't anticipate any regular customer going back there.
Okay, I was trying to figure that out on the map, so thank you.
I had one final question, and that is pertaining to the venues there. It looks like we're going to have a bunch of fast food restaurants in here. Is that correct?
As of now, we would anticipate 2 fast food restaurants, pads B and D.
Okay, is there a way that we can get rid of one of those and put in a regular restaurant? Something with some ambience and quality?
Pads.
That's the only one I saw. And I was just thinking,
That's probably gonna be shops though.
yeah.
The other pad buildings, pads E, as well as the shops, would accommodate restaurant uses within them. It would be up to the planning commission if they want to revise that to eliminate the drive-through use of any of those pads.
Yeah, I'm kind of burnt out on fast food restaurants. The city is polluted with them.
Well,
And it would be,
but if it was, if it was a Jamba Juice, a health, are we limiting then that wouldn't be available there? One of those health food smoothie places, would that be limiting that?
And you've gone beyond simply asking staff questions.
Yeah.
To answer the question, can you, if you can point to specific design criteria of the buildings, specific design criteria of the layout, or specific physical impacts to the site or surrounding properties, then you would have a basis under your current code in order to eliminate one or both of the drive-through facilities. Short of that, however, property owner preference is something that has to be taken into consideration, and allowance is made for that. In your new code, you may be able to establish standards that say that, you know, you can't have more than one on X acres of land, or you can't have drive-throughs closer than X distance from each other. You can't have drive-throughs of this nature or that nature, so that you solve the problem that you were just mentioning of a McDonald's versus a coffee shop and so forth, or a coffee pickup point. But right at the moment, the answer to your question is you would have to point out something specific in order to make a finding, or not be able to make a finding to move forward with this particular layout.
Okay, just following up on that, I would like to see some consideration about eliminating one of those drive-throughs, specifically the one that's on Menifee Road. Yes, that one there. It looks like you've got a lot of traffic. I don't see the necessity for it.
Well, I think right now we're asking questions of staff, not really discussing what's going on, so if we can save that for the latter portion.
Okay.
And then, if there are no other questions of staff, are there? Then I think we'll open the public hearing, and it is 7:55. The public hearing is open. And at this time, I'll ask the clerk to confirm that the notice was legally published, and if there's any additional correspondence was received.
Yes, sir, it was legally published, and in your blue folders, you've been provided the additional correspondence received after the posting of your packets, as well as a printout from the city's Facebook page of the comments.
Perfect, thank you. And at this time, I want to see if the applicant would like to speak.
Pardon?
My glasses fogged up in my pocket, so I've got to wait just a moment here. Good evening, Commissioners, staff, members of the audience. My name is Larry Canali, LJC Enterprises. With me here this evening is Joe Meyer with Pacific Retail Partners, as well as Mike Reed, Senior Director of Real Estate for Stater Brothers. And I might add that we're not Orange County developers. We're local IE guys. We've been developing centers here for about 15 years, from Temecula, Corona, Chino Hills. We are long-term developers. We maintain and keep our properties. So we have a vested interest in what we develop, and we like to bring a quality product to the community. I'd also like to thank staff. We've been in this process for about 15 months. And from a pre-submittal or pre-application to 4 other submittals, it's been a very good process in terms of working with staff, bringing revisions to the project before we presented it here to you this evening. We didn't want to do it in a piecemeal fashion. We wanted to be in concurrence with staff and really bring you as much as possible a quality finished product. We do have a 3D model that we'll be able to work through and show you different aspects of the signage and points of view, and hopefully we can address all the Commission's concerns. I'm going to point out what we consider a couple notable design elements on this center. One, our architectural theme. We're trying to develop a craftsman theme here, something unique for the community. It's a little higher quality architectural theme, and we've tried to carry that theme throughout the center. On the Stater Brothers building itself, We'll go to Stater Brothers. One thing that we've been, go to the front of it if you can find it. We'd like to get community involvement here. And one of the things that has been successful in our other IE centers is we've had local schools, whether high schools, elementary schools, participate in an art project. And in this project here, we have set aside on the Stater Brothers main elevation 2 areas for tile murals. And those are being constructed and put together by 2 local elementary schools, Freedom Crest and Callie Kirkpatrick. And in fact, this evening we have with us here Kelly Skolkum from Callie Kirkpatrick, I get those names right, that will share some information. If I can, I'll bring her up just as a brief sidebar and let her share with you some of the things that the kids are doing.
Good evening, I'm Kelly Slocum. I'm representing Callie Kirkpatrick. We're a neighborhood right there, and I actually live right behind the center, so it's a very interesting part for me. We were proposed by Stater Brothers to have an art project and working with the kids, we thought it would be something that would integrate community with the shopping center. They were designing a 5 by 6 foot tile area, and we were asked to do a design project, and we kind of were playing around with some design, but this is what we came up with. Our logo is, we're pioneers of the future, so Menifee's moving forward, so we thought we'd incorporate our logo, which is the rocket ship. And then it's a mosaic of all the students' pictures, small enough and it doesn't include any names, so it's anonymous to an effect, but almost like an I Spy where kids can look in on it. So we've done it so we can print this onto the tiles and then bake them onto the tiles so that the kids would feel like a part of the community and be able to, visit it and see it for now and for years to come. So we're excited about doing it and moving forward with that.
It's kind of interesting where we've done this, in fact, every center is from high school to 3rd grade elementary. And what we found is our centers have virtually no graffiti. You'll see kids bringing, grandma and grandpa 5 years later and pointing out their tiles or their artwork. And it kind of just gives a sense of ownership to the community. And that's, again, one of the design elements we tried to incorporate. Bring up quarter.
And where, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Where will those be going?
There, if I can zoom, can you zoom in on the Stater Brothers elevation? Sure. The portico area, I'm not sure if we're going to get it in these renderings here, but if you look at your Stater Brothers renderings, on each side of the main entrance, there will be right on the Stater Brothers building itself. I also have examples, if you'd like, that we have in some of our other centers where the high schools have done murals. I can pass those around to you as well.
What size are they? What size will it be when it's finished?
Approximately 5 by 7.
Okay, so bigger than her little poster. Okay, okay.
Yeah. The quarter monument treatment, if we can go to that.
Is that the monument sign?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We really wanted to create some enhancement to this corner. One thing that was mentioned here on the signs, surrounding this entire site, if you're familiar with the site, there's an existing LMD or landscape maintenance district. And it actually provides a built-in buffer or setback to the entire center. Along Newport, it's 20 feet in width. We have 32 London plane trees there. Excuse me. And then along Menifee, we have a horse trail, and the setback is 40 feet. And Commissioner Sobek, I'll come back to that on that 20-foot sign where you had mentioned it's actually set back 40 feet because of that existing easement. Landscaping on the center. Simple terms, we wanted to do something a little beyond the ordinary. Code requires that we have 10% of our area landscaped. We're at 14.9, I'll call it 15%. So we've really tried to enhance the landscaping, and I'll speak to the screening along Rockport because that's really where we focused a lot of it. We also, in our parking lot shading, it was mentioned that ordinance requires 50% of your parking area to be shaded. We're at 61.4%. So we tried not to meet the minimum and do something really beneficial to the neighborhood.
Can I stop you there on the parking? Are you putting in those little parking curb things, those little cement things, or is it well, you got the diamonds in there, right? Those are all cement diamonds in there?
Correct.
Okay.
The other thing we started, again, about 15 months ago, this is a specific plan. You know, it's a designated commercial development area from the original approval of the plan. We pulled that site plan, again, conceptual in nature, and we looked at how can we improve on that. And one of the key concerns that they had multiple driveways along Rockport. And if we pull up to the site plan, and we'll float through this, but we have limited exposure on Rockport to one access drive. If you'll go to Rockport access.
Switch the screen there.
Oh, okay, that's fine right now. All along Rockport, we have no driveway entrances except for the one closest to Menifee. And that is a secondary access. It's a right-in, right-out only. We also have designed our interior truck delivery routes to where we have no truck deliveries or circulation along Rockport whatsoever. The screening docking areas of Stater Brothers and the back of Shops Building 3, we have complete screening walls of the docks so there's no visual impact. We have complete buffering with landscaping. And then we have also incorporated with the conditions electrical hookups, so trucks are not operating there or sitting idling. There's some other conditions that restrict and really make this a virtual no impact to our adjoining residences. We touched a little bit about public gathering areas. We've identified 7 areas, and we'll come back to those. I really would like the commission's input. We have some preferences and working with staff on where we think we'd like, but obviously we'd like your input on those as well. Now, I mentioned, 15 months. These things have gone through revisions, the sign program, 9 revisions with staff, tenants, to try to come to something that we think is viable and attractive to the center. And we're going to float through the model here, and I'll show you some views on the signage here. We've done 9 comprehensive studies, from noise, air quality, greenhouse gas, and I could cite them if you want, but we have spent some time and resources to make sure that this is properly designed and integrated with the entitlement package that we're requesting from you. And I think part of that reflects, we have over 250 conditions of approval, 250. We worked really well with staff, and I really have to commend staff. Russell has done an exceptional job, as well as all members of the city. We're really down to 6 items, really 5, that we'd like to add some clarification or discussion. And whether you want to do those now or after public comment, I'll take your direction on those as well. And at this point, I'd like to kind of just walk you through the 3D model. And then at any time, we have the ability to fly around, hover, come to different points of view. So hopefully we can address any point of view that you would like to. We're going to just walk through them. So coming back to the overall site. We've taken a look at the monument sign. Let's go up and down on that a little view. Back out. Our purpose here, again, as staff had indicated, we do have a drive-through facility proposed on this. We are in discussion with a national tenant on that site, and we wanted to make sure visual aesthetics are important on this corner. So incorporating the monument sign, we added trellis structure, and then pretty significant 40-foot landscape setback on Menifee, and again, a 20-foot setback along Newport.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
That property right now is much higher than Newport Road.
Yes.
Is that going to be leveled down?
If you can imagine a site in your mind and think of it as a giant piece of cheese. And we're gonna kind of cut a big piece of slice off the front end on the corner and flop it over to Laguna Vista. So our height here from street will be about 5 or 6 feet, I believe. So it will modify from, it's probably about 8 to 9 feet now. I will mention also that we do have a record access and construction easement negotiated with the Lakes Association that provides for our ability to do this corner monument sign as well as the access drive on Menifee. Okay, where we were. Let's go to the main entrance. This is a main entrance looking at Pad A. Again, a drive-through, and we are in discussion with a major national tenant to occupy this building.
Larry?
Yes.
Another question, and I don't know if this is a proper time to even mention it, but so I'm going to mention it. I saw in the plans, I don't know if it was just a rendering, but it was a McDonald's, and I will just share my concern that we already have a McDonald's that just came in on Newport, and I hope that we don't have, and I shouldn't say that because I don't want to get in trouble for McDonald's, but I should be careful and say, like to like, if we already have something down the road, maybe we can have something different at this end. So I just saw the picture in there, and I didn't know if it was just a rendering, an example, or what, so.
It is a discussion with that tenant on the hard corner, and we want to address that. We get this a lot. I mean, when we first started developing a center in Corona 15 years ago, it is this natural desire to have high-quality sit-down restaurants. What I found is this stuff is market-driven, per se. It's one thing for us collectively to agree that we would like a nice steakhouse or a nice Mexican food restaurant. The decision has to be generated by the demographics of the community. It's market. It's almost beyond our control. In this case here, what we're finding is your city is, if you're a tenant wanting to do business, you really have kind of two alternatives. You can center punch the trade area and go in by your freeway, or if you're looking long-term and wanting to make a commitment to this community, they're splitting the trade area. So that's where you'll see Stater Brothers and Stater Brothers, both east and west. CVS is doing the same thing. You almost are going to create two distinct trade areas with the freeway separating the two. McDonald's is looking at the same thing. So you're going to find a group of tenants that are going to want to pursue a neighborhood center like this, providing services that we think are absent on this side of the freeway. I'm going to just quickly walk you through some of these here. Laguna Vista. And then all along Rockport, why don't we just go to Rockport loading? Again, we couldn't put in all the trees that we proposed. I do have a full copy of a colored landscaping so you can see the screening. All along Rockport, one of the reasons we did not add building articulation to the shop building is because we just have a significant amount of landscaping almost shielding that building completely from view. So it's kind of one of economics. Where do we want to spend our dollars? Spending them in the public areas with enhanced hardscape, benches, pottery, trellises, things of that nature. We just thought it a better use of resources. And that kind of really, if you'd like, it probably is prudent for me to address maybe 5 of these conditions of approval, to just place them in your mind, and then I'll be more than happy to address any questions from the commissioner staff. One primary concern that Russell had touched on is plot plan number 16. This is addressing no mezzanine or second floor. What we have here is CVS does have a mezzanine, just they have in their brand new store. It's for equipment storage only. It's not utilized by anyone, so we don't think it has any impact to parking counts. Stater Brothers itself has probably about 2,500 to 2,700 square feet in a mezzanine location. Only 900 square feet, I'll just round it to 1,000, is office space. The balance is for air handling, storage, things of that nature. So we would like the commission to basically amend that condition to eliminate that requirement. And/or if we want to restrict it just to those 2 parcels and have it applicable to the balance of the center, that would be acceptable to us as well. A couple just cleanup items. Item number 42 and tentative parcel map 12E. These really speak to how we operate the center in conjunction with Stater Brothers. On item number,
Can we go back, can we list those up, those conditions that went over earlier? Now, which item are you discussing?
so plot plan number 16, addressing second floor mezzanine.
Okay, yeah, we talked about that. Next one, the one you just went over.
Number one's 42, which is maintenance of landscape.
Can you go to that, Russell?
It's not actually listed here on our slide. It is included in the Planning Commission's packet as far as the edited conditions, though.
Describe it again. What is the requirement that you're contesting?
It basically, it's just a matter of terminology difference. Here it cites that, let me read it specifically. It identifies the owner of a property or a property owners association. And in our CC&Rs that will be recorded with the project, we operate the center with Stater Brothers, and we have basically an entity that's called an operator that addresses all the management of the center, the policing and cleaning of all the common area, basically the common area maintenance.
So what are you saying? You don't want a property owners association, and you don't want to go into an L&L?
Correct. We need to, I guess what I'd like to do on those is maybe on 42 and 12E of the tentative parcel map, I'd like to strike the word verbatim because there is some kind of cut and paste language on especially item 12E of the tentative parcel map that we just have a conflict of terms within our Stater Brothers documentation. So what I'd like to suggest is that we amend that to incorporate those to the mutual approval of the city attorney, planning, and ourselves. I mean, we'll work through the language. We'll accomplish the same goal. We just didn't want to have.
Where's 12E? I'm looking at.
In the tentative parcel map.
What?
Of the packet handed to the Planning Commission, it's the 4th to last page.
Oh, you're talking about the changes?
Sorry, the changes to conditions.
Oh,
Okay,
the
okay.
changes.
That's why.
It should be page 7 of 27 noted.
I have 2. Is somebody missing one? I have 2 here. No, you guys not get one?
To note, on this condition, staff did edit that portion to put Property Owners Association in brackets, somewhat to imply that this term used here is flexible, and once the CCRs are provided, that term could match what the applicant is basically calling that organization.
This is on page what? Which one are you talking about?
The 4th to last page of the packet, which is page 7 of 27, noted in the footer.
Not in numbers either.
There you go. Okay.
If you look at item E, it cites about 4 paragraphs, and it says the declaration of CCNRs shall contain the following provisions verbatim. And that's going to create problems for us. So if we could strike verbatim and maybe just add a provision that we'll make a mutual endeavor to approve it with the city attorney and planning, I think that's more accurate of what's going to occur.
Oh, right there.
What are your thoughts on that, Russ?
I would rather have the community development director comment on these portions possibly.
Or the city.
I don't have a
City
problem
attorney.
with that revision either.
So basically it's saying instead of exactly succinctly as it said, you'll work in good faith with them to come up with some kind of.
Correct. So it'll contain something substantively in those, that copies the following provisions, even if it's not verbatim.
And then going back to number 42, the maintenance, I still don't understand what you're getting to on number 42. You don't want to be in a property owner association, and you don't want to be in lighting
Well,
and landscape district?
No, we address that in our CCNRs. It's a component of our CCNRs. So really the same provision that I'm asking on 12E just mirrors that same comment.
So you're saying you want this requirement stricken because it's going to be in your CCNRs?
It's going to be addressed in the CCNRs.
And what's your thoughts on that?
As long as the CCNRs address the issue and the future ownership of the parcel, if they sell it to somebody else or a group of somebody else's, as long as it's covered in the CCNRs, that's fine.
But.
It would, because it would be a document of record attached to the land.
I guess if you're doing it anyway, what's your problem with leaving it in there then?
It's just misleading because it says all private landscaping shall be maintained by a quote, a property owners association or individual property owner, and that's not how we structure it.
I have on the landscaping, with the drought tolerant landscaping we're having to do now, it
Yes.
seems like a lot of our shopping centers put a lot of mulch in, and then it's after a year, it doesn't
Looks
look
terrible.
great.
Yeah.
And so I actually, I think you are responsible for a 6-month and a year check on the landscaping. I actually was going to suggest maybe a 2-year, and I don't know how we have to start addressing this mulch issue because nobody's replacing their mulches, and it's just looking, and I know that's part of the drought tolerant thing, but somehow we have to start working out this where our landscaping is looking aesthetically pleasing for the people that live here. So
I think part of that is, I just speak to as a property owner, maintenance of our centers is really important to us. And in part because it's integration with the community, and the other is our tenants. We really have been blessed. All our centers are 100% occupied. We've had tenants for 15 years that I can tell you their first name basis and their kids. So, landscaping and maintenance is important to us.
Well, instead of taking it out, because we need to leave little teeth in these to make sure that it happens, you could amend that to say property owners association, individual property owner, or by agreement CCNR, however you want to amend it.
That'd be fine.
Would that
But
be
leave
okay?
the COA in there and work out some wording that you need to.
And then just 2 other ones. I'll save the hardest one for last. On number 62 of the plot plan, we have cart corrals. The only tenant that's going to utilize cart corrals is going to be Stater Brothers. And part of the process and refinement of the site plan, we have identified those locations in concurrence with staff, but we've not addressed the actual cart corral structure. This is requesting it come back as a minor plot plan amendment, and what we'd like to do is we think it's more appropriate to just direct that to the satisfaction of staff or the community development director.
Because you don't want to be forced to put in permanent cart structures, right? Now, the problem with that is some do look pretty cheesy, especially those metal ones. They're bolted down for a minute, but then after a while they come up and they start bending, cars hit them, and they look cheesy. Maybe we could put some requirement in that only immediately adjacent to Stater Brothers, but some of the higher quality developments do have the permanent cart structure.
We're not opposed to the permanent, from a practical, position, in an Albertson Center that we've had for 15 years, we did the raised curb, and then an enhanced cart corral structure on top of it. What we found is, one, in terms of keeping them clean, it's problematic. You have to address drainage on them. We have them painted yellow. I can tell you just from operational point of view, we've had numerous trip hazards. They're painted yellow, there's a big cart corral, and yet we get numerous claims just from a trip hazard on them. So we're willing to work and do something really nice, but we'd just rather not do it as a minor plot plan. We'd like to just direct it and work with staff.
Oh, I see the minor plot plan. Charles, is there a way of ensuring we get a quality cart corral without a plot plan? Or is that kind of?
Certainly there is, because any administrative approval that you may allow the community development director is appealable to the body. So if, when they've supplied their suggestion to staff, if we approve it and then you receive your copy of the approval and you disagree with that, you can appeal it to this body.
Okay.
So it's still going to say no temporaries. It will incorporate enhancements, and so possibly strike the wording of submitting minor plot plan, just put at the discretion of staff.
No.
No?
Community development director
Development
approval.
director
Okay,
Approval,
community.
okay.
And that would be ideal.
But the intention is for a permanent fixture, not a temporary one?
Correct.
Okay.
And staff, this community development director may be harder on you than, than the commission may be.
I don't think I've won one or two arguments with Lisa or Charles to date, so I will humbly abdicate to that position. The last one is items 64 and 85. And this speaks to security system. And we unfortunately just got this condition a short time ago. So it kind of was a new subject matter for us. We have interfaced with Officer Tedwell from the Sheriff's Department, and staff has made some modifications. It originally was quite comprehensive in terms of vehicle ID reading day and night. And what we have, from a practical point of view, is from our layman's position is, we don't have a high crime area. This is an extremely nice community. We don't anticipate any problems in the operation of the center. We don't have any security on any of our other IE centers, and they're very well received. We do have two very great regional tenants in Stater Brothers that has their proprietary security system, which covers their storefront, their loading dock area, cameras and all of that. CVS as well, you're familiar with their recent approval. They have cameras as well. We'd like to see if the commission would be agreeable to at least give a sense of direction. We're going to have to work through this with the Sheriff Department, but what we don't want to do is kind of create a big brother syndrome and have security cameras all over the entire parking lot area. So we would really, I guess, ask for a kind of non-binding recommendation to work with the Sheriff's Department utilizing the security systems that the national tenants already incorporate.
So you do not want a development-wide security system. You're depending just on the tenants.
Correct.
Okay, and what, Charles or Russell, is there new code, either county or statewide or other, that's encouraging this, or is this just a higher standard we put in, or what?
My understanding of the situation is that they call for a center-wide security system.
What
that
is they?
The sheriff's office
Okay.
called for a center-wide, which either may be being overly enthusiastically interpreted, or just flat out more than is necessary. It is something that we can work with the Sheriff's Department on to provide for a level of security that meets both their need and the city's need via the sheriff's opinion. In regards to the crime issue, however, the very center that you continued earlier in this meeting, that property owner and developer is very concerned with the security of their site because of their experiences in other areas of this community and communities that they have centers in. So there is differences of opinion as to the safety of our community, and what we as staff are trying to achieve is some reasonableness, but also some security. So staff can suggest to you that you can either leave it in the hands of the sheriff's department, leave it in the hands of the sheriff and staff, or ask that that particular issue be brought back to the commission as some kind of a solution.
I need to think on this a little more. I don't know what the rest of you think.
Well, I like his idea of maybe staff and the sheriff, and them working together. And then,
I think all three, staff, sheriff, and the applicant.
Right.
The applicant's
Right.
always involved
Yeah,
because
well,
they're the one
that's what I'm saying.
footing the bill and putting it up, so they're always
Be able to
involved.
come up with something.
I know we have encouraged other businesses, and that's been an important issue, to have those security.
And you are still in public hearing, so the discussion portion can.
Oh, that's right.
Why don't we
Thank you.
leave that for further discussion?
Okay. That really concludes our presentation. Again, we are, I don't know, Russell, how we get the monitor back up to our model. I do want to address Commissioner Sobek on, this is the Menifee monument sign, as you referenced to proximity to the school. And you can see, again, we have a 40-foot setback that already exists. So the 20-foot monument sign, although you would think appears large, it's really of proper scale and set back to where there's almost diminished impact. And then with that said, I'm more than willing to address any comments. We also have Mike Reed, the Senior Director of Real Estate. Want to address anything in terms of Stater Brothers operation or any operational questions from CVS as well. Thank you very much, and I'll try to address any questions you may have.
Any questions, anyone?
I just have discussion is all.
I have, would you consider a planter around that with some annuals and perennials to enhance that sign for beautification and aesthetics?
Yes, in fact, my partner Joe has a love for purple flowers.
I noticed that when I was looking, a lot of purple. Actually, that's on, I don't know if we discuss it with you or if we're going to discuss it amongst ourselves, but I do have some on the front monument, a little bit better of a quality plant palette, and maybe an extension of that wall like we, okay, we'll discuss
agree
it.
with you.
So I had questions on that.
Well,
so.
no, if you can ask him if you want, but yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
I apologize for the size of this and not being able to get this to, I don't know how, this is a large colored landscape
Yeah,
plan.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
do you want one?
can I right now, though, so the monument sign, the corner, a little bit more quality of the plant palette there. The wall, I was wondering if you might be willing to maybe extend that. Also, we didn't discuss the lighting in the parking lot, what staff had suggested compared to the box lighting. Had you?
Yes, we're in concurrence with staff on that. We've upgraded the main parking field to the fixture that Russell had indicated on his first exhibit.
The city suggested or your suggested one?
City suggested.
City
Okay.
suggested.
And then what we also want to do, we've come around and looked at some of the newer developments in your city, and we really like the enhanced lower level pedestrian lighting, and we plan to incorporate those on all three major entrances.
Great.
kind of throttling in.
Great.
My preference is I forget the name of it, but the first light fixture there. We're trying to get something that's architecturally enhanced with kind of the craftsman theme,
Okay.
which is very subjective too.
Are any of these lights LED?
They're all LED.
Okay. And then, are you using in the shopping center, the blade signs, or awning signs? I saw it was in our sign packet. And on your shops, will you be doing any of the,
I believe some of
blade
those are
signs?
prohibited. That may be under the prohibited section.
Yes, they prohibited.
no, right here. That's prohibited down here.
Again, we're really pleased with the signage package. We think it's a good balance. It's been through, again, 9 revisions, not only with our major tenants, but staff. We actually had another 20-foot monument sign, and I think, Russell, 2 or 3 other 8-foot signs. So we've really pared it down. Part of the reason why you have this, I don't want to say that the city's sign package is antiquated, but I think you've hit it. It really is in terms of a center this size. You have 14 acres, and so when you also look at developing phase 2, you have quality tenants needing signage and location on your major street frontages. So we try to create a balance with creating that signage, doing a quality sign, and yet making the tenant known to bypassers.
All right.
So I'd like to ask, how close would this development be to the one you guys did in Canyon Hills? The Stater Brothers over there?
I don't know that distance, and I was not the developer of that center. Reed may be able to.
If there's no other questions, we thank you for
Okay.
coming forward.
And again, we'll make the model available to you, and I can come back up and address any questions.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would you like to have your public speakers now, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Rachel Sanders.
Yeah, my name's Rachel Sanders. I'm a resident of Summer House at the Lakes, which is the community directly behind the new potential, or the new development that's coming in there at Menifee Road, Laguna, and Newport. I had 2 concerns as far as the traffic. One of them was already answered, where the Rockport entrance, evidently there is not going to be normal traffic entrance from that. It's just going to be for the delivery, the truck delivery to the market. But I do have an issue with the Laguna Vista. I was wondering if the Planning Commission, and maybe it's too late to even consider this now, that the approach from Newport be similar or duplicate to the entrance of the CVS down at the other end of Newport, so we can save our Laguna Vista street amenities. In other words, eliminate that Laguna Vista entrance. You'd still have the one on Newport, you'd still have the one on Menifee Road, but to save our entrance into our community. That's it.
Charles, a point of clarification on that?
Yes.
Is there, to the immediate east of this, there's nothing there right now, right?
Correct, it's vacant
So-
land.
So what, is she concerned about what we talked about before, just eliminating, she wants to get rid of that turn?
Correct. As Russell noted in his presentation, right now, there's a row of mature palm trees. In order to create a left turn into the shopping center, they would need to take out part of that median, which will result in, I believe he said, 6 trees being removed from the median and 2 trees along the property line as well. You can either allow what's shown, not allow what's shown, but keep the driveway, and then traffic coming from Newport and making two rights would get into the center, or not allow the break in the median and not allow the driveway. Staff doesn't suggest the third, but it's up to the commission as to whether you want that median break or not.
So if the people coming in from the south, this is an entrance, right, to their
Yes.
housing tract?
Yes.
So they could not come up Laguna Vista and turn in. They'd either have to go in down Newport and come in this way, or would they be allowed to come in on this right turn in, right?
Certainly, yes.
Yeah. So the question then is, do we want to have that traffic flow from the housing tract here, or make them come in the back? If we block that,
Or I think the question is the aesthetics of retaining that row of mature palm trees.
Next speaker, Emmett Davis.
My name is Emmett Davis, Commissioners. My main concern is that school, the additional traffic, it shouldn't be a commodity. I mean, not a commodity, but if someone get hurt with all the additional traffic from the schools, I hope it's not one of your kids.
Thank you.
Ron Sullivan.
Yes, Commission. Ron Sullivan, I represent Diamond Brothers, who owns the 28 acres commercial property immediately across the street from the lakes. We're not here to oppose their project, we're here to oppose the traffic signal. We've had a limited amount of time to address the traffic study. We'd like a little bit more time, but some of the things that concern us, number one, is that this is an arterial highway. According to the county and the city adopted ordinance, that the spacing is a half mile. This is not a half mile. You can go from State Street all the way to I-15. Everything is a half mile, with the exception of one opening to the Canyon Hills specific plan, which was done primarily to exit residential tracks. So we're setting a standard here which is probably not in the best interest, I believe, for the city of Menifee, because we're not moving traffic through here. Diamond Brothers actually gave up all that right-of-way, free and clear, just to get the road in. And now, because they want a signal here, this is a developer-driven signal. This is not a requirement from the city. So there's a little difference here. And so this is actually going to penalize our property. As Raphael says, we're going to be forced to do something on our side, which we have to give up more developable pads, plus we'll get cost for doing some additional coordination of the signals. I don't think it's right. Newport carries a tremendous amount of traffic. What we found just in the quick things that we looked at on the study is it doesn't address the 6,000 units that are out in Winchester Hills specific plan. There's nothing there. It doesn't include the remaining tracks that's over in Hemet, because that traffic still goes all the way over to I-15 and to our new bridge at I-215. So there's still a lot of stuff that's not done. You can say that they've got everything solved for 2016, but what about 2020, 2025? They haven't addressed what normally is done on something like this, that you address whatever the general plan is and the general plan traffic on an arterial, and this study doesn't address that. You can look at the town center, which is 60 acres. They have 3 signals. 60
Mr. Sullivan,
acres.
that's your time.
This is 14 acres. So I think it's a little bit of an overkill. Thank you.
Joe Cardella.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for your time. I'm glad I was called after Mr. Sullivan. I basically echo his concerns.
I'm counsel for the Menifee Auto Care across the street. And again, business is good for business, so we support the project, but we strongly disagree with the light going in there. We didn't have much time to look at the traffic study, but there were some glaring omissions, as Ron mentioned. The traffic study is based on a 2% increase per year. It fails to address the specific plans that were approved for Crossroads and Winchester Hills. It'll be significantly more than 2% if those are taken into account. It also doesn't take into account the residents at Laguna Vista. That's the first problem. The second problem is really, as Mr. Sullivan said, and I want to make it clear, the traffic signals are supposed to be about half a mile apart, 1,300 feet or so. And what you're doing here is you're sticking another traffic signal right in the middle of the other two. All the synchronization in the world is not going to eliminate the congestion and the additional problems that are going to be created with that additional traffic signal. And here's the critical part. You're going against the city's own guidelines for traffics. And to do that, you have to have some finding, some public interest. There's no public interest here. It's the developer's interest. So it just doesn't make sense without a finding, and there can be no finding, that this traffic signal is warranted for the benefit of the city, for the benefit of the public. A lot of people use this going from one city to another, and there's no benefit to the residents around here, creating additional congestion. There were some other issues as well. There's no mitigation measures relating to the traffic signal, because the initial study said when these improvements go in, well, it'll be a benefit. Right now, the city streets are at a D, which is acceptable, but if these other issues are not addressed, I think it would become an F, or pretty close to it. So I would ask that this be continued and address these issues and not be too quick to put in the traffic signal. Thank you for your time this evening. Any questions? I'd be happy to.
Thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
Janie Booth.
Good evening. Actually, I thought this was a city council meeting also, but we also are residents of the Lakes development right behind, and I'm so excited about this coming in, to have a quality grocery store, drugstore, places where we can, walk to, ride our bikes, go frequent. It's really, exciting to us rather than fight the traffic to go back to the 215 and Newport Road and that nightmare. So I'm really excited to have some of those things nearby. I'm also really glad to be here tonight because it is complex. There's a lot of complex decisions to be made. So I really appreciate you addressing, the traffic issues, and then also the views from Rockport Road and also near the school and everything. Our community is a really beautiful community, so to keep that in mind also with the development there is really great. I also thought it was funny about, the drive-throughs, maybe like an El Pollo Loco or something that has a little bit higher quality type food. That would be exciting too, and I don't mind having two because it's nice to have two choices. And I just look forward to it coming in and appreciate everybody's input tonight.
Thank you.
Deborah Samus.
Hi, I'm Deborah Samus, and I've lived in Menifee for 22 years. My kids have attended Catholic Kirkpatrick, and my concern is the safety of our children, the highway. I don't know if any of you get up early and drive that highway in the morning. We have bus stops picking up children for the Heritage High School. That is a big concern that I have. You have numerous children walking. You have traffic. It is a nightmare. Before you go through that Menifee and Newport intersection, you have to stop and make sure that all that cross traffic has stopped because the speed is in excess. So I would really like that to be addressed. My second concern as well is the security. We cannot have enough security. If you live near Ralph's, you know that there's panhandlers, There are homeless people living behind the shopping center. What are we going to do to address that? Because as a parent, I'm concerned. I'm concerned for our seniors. We have a lot of people who like to walk. They can't make it across the highway. Then they're panhandled when they go to the grocery stores. They say they have security cameras. They don't. They have them on their loading docks and in front of the stores. They don't have it in the areas that's needed. And it's a concern. I live in Lake Ridge Estates. I've been there for 20 years. The gentleman mentioned something about having a horse trail. Is that correct?
It's existing.
An existing horse trail. So that would continue along Menifee Road and up?
I don't know, the trail continuation is just part of the Menifee existing improvement.
Because I know that the homeless situation where we live, we've had people camped out on that dirt road until Centex development came in. And I'm glad Centex is there. It's a beautiful community. But we have to work together. We have to have a higher standard, a higher quality. We cannot have enough security. We cannot have a traffic study. I would really like you to please reconsider. I plan to stay here in Menifee for the rest of my life. And we just cannot throw something together and not think twice. They addressed the Laguna
Excuse me, I
Vista.
believe your time's up.
Now, Mr.
Oh,
Time.
well, thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
comments.
Jenny Ortiz?
Hello, my name is Jenny Ortiz. I'm with Tierra Shore Lakes community. And I was also addressing the Laguna Vista. I agree with the lady that was first here that, I think that eliminating it completely, the driveway itself, preserving the palm trees, preserving the entry gateway, lends itself to aesthetically working with the property value of the area. And then there's also the landlocked situation, because if you go on Old Newport and you're going towards Tierra Shores Lake, you have a whole brand-new community that's now being built out with, I don't know, it must be like, I think there's at least 500 homes being built out. So you're having quite a bit of traffic flow coming in from Newport, Laguna Vista, Rockport, down Old Newport, up into where the cows used to, recently now relocated, I don't know where, but thankfully they did. You have a whole new community now there that's going to be built out. So my concern is basically looking at that traffic study like everyone seems to be concerned here, and looking at the screening on Rockport, which is, as important as it is on Laguna Vista, as well as the traffic signal. I think, the existing traffic engineering department can revisit that, and Planning Commission can reconsider looking at that twice, because there is going to be definitely a huge impact with the new community, east of Old Newport or Rockport now, because there's only 2 entrances to that new community, and there's going to be a lot more traffic than what they're considering today as is. What else? I guess the deceleration that one of the planning commissioners mentioned, Chris Thomas, he mentioned something like that. I think that would be an improvement to this plan, as well as Mr. Phillips mentioned I understand having choices is important, but you also have a huge new metropolitan center coming up with, I'm assuming, more than your share of fast food chains that can also be relocated to that area, because you also have AM/PM across the way being developed. You also have even a higher number of traffic flow coming in, and you forget that during the summer season you have the Diamond Valley Lake community that has now new development. As you can see when you drive up, there's huge impact with new tract homes. I guess the main thing was just trying to preserve the palm trees and the entry gateway, because I know that a lot of the communities there now are, into making sure that, aesthetics is important, property value is important, and of course, the big boxes are critical too, property taxes are issues as well. But I think, during phase 2, if you were to leave that and eliminate.
Ms. Ortiz, that's your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Lori Owen?
Hi, good evening. I'm a newbie, my first time here. I got to go quick, I only have 3 minutes. All right, I am fairly new to Menifee. I've only been here since 2012, but prior to that I lived in Canyon Lake for over 10 years. So I was involved living in Canyon Lake at the time that the development went in over at Canyon Hills. So I was involved in going to the meetings and hearing a lot about the project and when that was going in, and the traffic engineering and all of that. So anyways, I have a little bit of background on what went on during that project. Okay, so my main concerns are the noise pollution. My next concern is speed and the traffic, signage pollution, the increase in pedestrian traffic, especially because of the school and the college. The other comments that I have is regarding the monument signs. This is what I noticed about Canyon Hills. They had the monument signs, but then I noticed that maybe a year later or two, those signs ended up having no names on them. So if we're granting variances to have these monument signs put up and they lose tenants, next thing you know it, they're blank, and that's a problem. So if we're granting variances and you can't get tenants to want to pay to have their name advertised on the monument and they're left blank, I think as a taxpayer, that's pretty bad. We granted you a variance, you lower your price, give it to them for free, but don't let it sit there blank. So that's my comment about that. And my other comment is that as far as other types of fast foods or merchants that came in, take note, Juice It Up and Starbucks were part of the initial package that went in. Juice It Up and Starbucks pulled out in less than 2 years. Now those are major national chains. So keep that in mind when you're interviewing and looking at different tenants to come in and approving permits. Those were major ones, and they left. Starbucks, I've never heard of a Starbucks pulling out before, and they pulled out. So the last thing, and the biggest thing for me, is the, no, that was in Canyon Hills. The one that they referred to, just on the other side on the 215. I mean, on the other side of 215 on Newport. Construction traffic. When Canyon Hills was putting in their project, enormous amount of construction traffic. There's a lot of, everything that goes on from pre-construction.
Ms. Owen, that's your time.
Okay, construction traffic is bad. Redirect it. Don't have it come across 215 Newport. Have them go through Dominigoni.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have no further speakers on this item.
Thank you. Then at this time, I'd like to close the public hearing at 8:57 and bring it behind the panel here for commission discussion.
I've got several significant things, but I'll let everyone else go first.
I like it when you go first.
Okay. Question. We got 2 signals on Newport Road. We got the one right immediately in front of it, and then we got one on Laguna Vista. I don't see how we could live without the Laguna Vista. Is that correct? That has to be there for not only the existing development, but all the stuff that's going to go in. Okay, so we have to have that one. If we did not have a signal on Newport, right, coming out north immediately, that means that that would have to be medianed all the way, and that would only be a right in and a right out. Is that correct? Okay.
For it to be safe, correct.
Exactly. You couldn't have any crossing. So that means anyone leaving this development would, if they wanted to either go to their houses to the north or to the west, they would have to come out the west entrance here and kind of make an L and come out.
Or go on Laguna
Well,
Vista.
they have, well, yeah, I guess they go to Laguna Vista and come out. So from traffic's experience, is that a severe impediment by taking that light out and making them go around these entrances? Is it that big of a deal? I'll ask you and I'll ask Charles.
If I may, I'd like to take a minute and let Rafael Martinez walk through the traffic impact analysis. The issues that were raised tonight, we're aware of, we looked at, and I want to add that I've had two very competent traffic engineering companies look at this issue, Kimley Horn, a national transportation company, and also our current one, Parsons Brinkerhoff, and they've provided us the support to work through these issues and come up with what you see in front of you. So I'm going to turn it over to Rafael. He's going to provide some additional information. Hopefully that'll answer your questions. If not, we'll roll into additional question and answer.
Thank you, Jonathan. So essentially, Commissioner, you are correct. If we didn't have the signal at that location in the middle, what you would be doing is you would be redirecting and shifting a lot of the circulation out to the other locations, the driveways. So if you can imagine a pipe that is under pressure, if you only have 2 points of access, the pipe's under more pressure. If you put more points of access, now you reduce the pressure. That's what you want to do. You want to have a balanced circulation to where people can go different directions from where they want to go and not force them out to specific locations where you're then causing congestion, backup, storage issues. So the one topic of the quarter mile, that is a traffic engineer's, it's a rule of thumb when you're doing big, large plats. I've actually designed signals that's 200 feet away with average daily volume higher than this. So it's not that it's a preferred, but it's something that can be mitigated, as I said, with coordination, synchronization, correct ped access, proper roadway widths, and proper ped signalization. As for the comment regarding the signal point and the development to the north of there, if they wanted to have a midpoint location, we would prefer them to be in line with this alignment. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to have a point of access at this point. So I think I might have misspoke earlier. They are more than welcome to just have the point of access off of Laguna Vista, which is already a signalized.
Talking about the development across the street.
Exactly. So if a development across the street wanted to minimize their point of access for whatever reason, they can just have one off of Laguna Vista leaving this location as a T intersection. Or if they wanted to, they can have 2 points of access, one off this intersection or one off of Laguna Vista. So that is one thing that I wanted to address, my comments. And then there was one other point regarding speed. In terms of speed, many of us have driven out to Las Vegas. As you're getting closer to the desert and you're seeing less development and less homes, speed tend to increase. The same thing goes for any area that is either rural, is not developed. The more open space there is, the more motorists tend to go faster. As we begin to develop these areas, you will see our speeds start to decrease, such as to the west of Menifee Road, the speed actually goes to a 45-mile-per-hour zone. And that's because now people are starting to see a lot more homes, starting to see a lot more signs, starting to get the feel that they need to slow down because they are in a different zone. This location here is a wide open space, so that's why the 85th percentile speed is at a higher rate. Once this development comes in, as well as the other development, and as a matter of fact, this signal light would lend itself to slowing and calming down traffic through this area. So all these aspects will reduce speed, and a lot of the concerns that some of the residents have brought up today will be mitigated with the development, with the intersection, as well as some of the points spoken today about the pedestrians. With the signals come pedestrian crossing points, so that actually makes it safer. If you have a wider distance for pedestrians to cross, sometimes it lends them to want to do things that they shouldn't, such as crossing mid-block, running to the middle of the intersection to the center divider, and then crossing again. So actually having the intersection is a safe aspect of a development, as long as it's mitigated and properly designed. And then as for the palm trees along Laguna Vista, I haven't looked very closely at what the volumes were for Laguna Vista for the left turn in, but I'm sure I can work with their traffic engineer if maybe we can potentially reduce the pocket length, therefore maybe minimizing the amount of palm trees that we have to take in there. And this is something definitely that we can work very closely with their designers in mitigating and trying to minimize the number of foliage that would be taken off of Laguna Vista. If you wanted to get into any more details in specific of the report and of the analysis and get into the numbers, their traffic consultant is here to answer any of those questions.
I'd just like to make, in discussing this with the commission, I think, so is this a correct point that if the developer across the street does not want to have an entrance there, he doesn't have to? Is that correct, Charles? Or, okay, so he doesn't have to. He can use the Laguna Vista. So that cost element's gone. And I could understand his perspective, and it does slow the purpose of it down, but that actually might be a good thing, like you said. And the second one is, I like that if there's a light, it does allow the pedestrian crossing, which people are going to be crossing. Third thing is, if we shut that off, it's gonna all funnel over here to the school, which means it's even more dangerous for the kids, which I would have a real hard time with, so.
And you would have to, considering you've got 2 lanes in and 2 lanes out onto Newport, you would have to redesign the site to have sufficient driveway widths and lanes in order to go both directions.
Right.
Yeah. So my encouragement to the commission would be to leave the light. Other issue is the seating. They have lots of nice little spots around here, which, for example, they showed right in front of the Stater Brothers, there was a couple seating spots. Well, that's a vending machine, that's bicycle racks. It's not gonna be a seating. So they've made an attempt to fulfill the seating requirement, but my recommendation would be, if you look in the middle, in the little, I don't know how we can show it on here, if you go to a different, yeah, the E, that's, what did we have, what was the square footage on that, did you estimate? Do we know? You talked about this, Charles. It's
The information
1,200
on the
square
screen
feet.
is 1,300 square feet.
Okay, so my recommendation here is to expand that area there, that 1,200 square foot area. Take away those parking stalls on each side of it, make that one block. Give them whatever finding you need to do to get rid of the parking spots. But I would like to make that, and then make that an architectural area, like maybe a little 3-foot raised wall and some trellises, and then a feature in the middle, something like we have at the towns, at the,
The one down here.
Menifee, not the Menifee Town Center, what is it, the Countryside?
Yeah,
Countryside.
And make that a developed congregation area with some architectural features and things. So, because basically they're just putting all these little spots all around, which are going to be taken over by all the stores anyway. We will not have a communal area. And if it's in the middle there, then we have, and it's big enough, we can make it something architecturally significant. So do you understand what I'm saying there, Lisa?
Yes, would they consider that?
That's,
Because, you know what, that's a good thought, because this will be a walkable
yeah, they'll be walking.
shopping center. You have a lot of walkable,
You're going to have hundreds of homes here.
yes.
Here, they're gonna be walking with their kids, they're gonna need a place to sit. So are we allowed to, we can come up and discuss this, can the applicant?
Sorry, for staff's purposes, which, I had missed it, which parking spaces were you talking about eliminating?
Well, you got E, and then the ones to the left and right of it. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, what, about 18 parking spaces. So, because I want the area, I want a bigger square foot area. 1,200 square foot you can't do diddly with. So, do you understand what I'm saying?
I do, and we in kind of working with staff, we try to create, these 7, some are going to be tenant specific. And, we kind of created this grand list, and then let's narrow it down. We're trying to really focus on 2 or 3 quality areas. And in that regard, in this space here, the difficulty in losing parking is because of our count requirements. So I think 1,200 square feet, where it doesn't sound big, this is, as Russell pointed out, we've had this discussion, it's kind of out in the middle. And in between our drive-through coffee shop and shops too. What we think is perhaps more productive and gives us greater flexibility and how do I want to say, a better canvas to do something significant is concurrence with staff. And that's the area on the side of shops 2. We had 4 stalls there. It was smaller. Russell, I can't remember. I think we have like twice 2,700 square feet.
Yeah, 27.
26.
That's
This
significant
right
enough area, Commissioner Thomas, where I think we can do something really quality in terms
Yeah.
of hardscape, planting, partial trellis structures. And it's centrally located in
Cupola.
between the majors and shops, and it's within the pedestrian corridors. So we are more than open to working with staff if you want to maybe just direct us to 2 or 3 areas. I think you're going to be extremely pleased with what we put in.
I could see the value of that. What I'm looking for, and help me with this, is something more of a statement, more of a significant architectural area. And while you would have the square footage there, I'm just not sure if it's gonna be a significant, feature of the development. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm not a designer. Maybe come back with an idea of something that, for example, on the Countryside Marketplace on the corner there, they've got the little river thing, water thing, they've got fire, they've got trellises, there's a lot of seating, and if you go there in the evening, it's full.
And that's what we want.
That's what I'm looking for, but I'm kind of worried that this is kind of tucked away. I don't think it would quite do that. So come back with maybe some other locations. I know you've got something over here on the northeast corner. I don't know, it's not looking, well, you got the space, I'm looking for something a little more of a statement, a little more of a, hey, this is a neat place to come.
Yeah, kind of a focal point.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think if you, what our intent was, if you can direct us to maybe 2 or 3 primary areas, let us work with staff and develop those areas. And I think we're going to come back.
Okay.
My recommendation or my request would be the 2 areas you identified, and then perhaps this common area up on Pad B. We do not have a tenant for that building at that point in time, so we're going to try to create some flexibility to create patio and seating areas that are attractive. So I guess my preference would be, I can't see, Russell, the areas, but the areas between the 2 pads and the main entrance. Let's call it E, D, and H. I think we can create.
Well, if you didn't want, I just brought up E and you shot it down because you said it's out in the middle, so what are you thinking of doing
Well,
there?
I'm trying to address scale. Okay, in other words, I think we do something in E, but I think the more enhanced scale is going to be in area D.
Yeah,
That make sense?
but my concern is that E is so small that people aren't gonna walk out in the middle and be there for a little tiny island. It's gotta be something more significant.
Perhaps, again, we do have some surplus parking in terms of parking required and provided.
I'm willing to trade off parking for a significant architectural feature. Me personally, I can't speak for the other councilmen, but something that would make a statement, I'm willing to work with you.
Okay. And we're open to that, as long as we can, address code requirement parking.
Yeah.
We're open to that discussion. If we can craft it to something that is acceptable to staff and community development director, I think Lisa's going to be, as we know, maintain us to a very high standard in terms of our landscaping.
I
and
think
hardscape.
staff, if they understand the intention, will figure something out.
Okay.
Next item is the corner monument on Menifee and Newport. I would encourage you to look at what we required of AMPM across the street. They had something even, a little slightly bigger than that, and we requested that they extend the wings, what was that? 20 foot? 15, 20 foot on each side. We also required a three-dimensional planter, so it's not just one, it had different levels and layers, and it had much more significant trellising, and it just needs to be more significant. I'm kind of disappointed with what's here, because it's these little bitty signs. So we want to, number one, hide this fast food. I'm not really thrilled about a fast food on the corner. I understand why you put it there, in and out, and the visibility, great. It's ugly. So let's hide it. And with AMPM, they really hit it well. So I'd encourage you to look at what AMPM was required to do as far as size, dimension, and things like that.
Okay,
So Russell, I'm sure, could provide that. And there was some cost to it, but it really jazzed up the development. And it sounds like you're into quality and you take care of your places. Like you said, the market drives these venues.
Yeah. We're more than willing to work in enhancement of that core money.
Wonderful, appreciate it.
And along with that, can I add on to that, on that corner monument? I actually looked at some of the plant palette, and it's aesthetics, but it brings people to a shopping center when it just draws them in, and I would suggest a little bit more quality, maybe add roses. I know that at the lakes, at their entrance, they have some roses. I think would be great to tie that in a little bit. We have them here at the Menifee Marketplace, and some of the ice roses are nice almost all year long. And if you add a little bit of white, your color stands out. So this just, I saw your purple. A little bit better quality there on that corner and on the plant palette.
I'm in support of whatever the wording was on the condition of approval of leaving, or the variance on changing the setbacks, or you want to leave it where it is, basically. You don't want to shove it farther in, right?
Correct. That is what the variance would allow for, is the current proposed location at 3-foot setback.
So I'm in support of that, and so you can just basically add on to that monument and improvement. Setback, let's see, There was, okay. My question for staff on this, and maybe the applicant will be involved, if there's a 40-foot easement there, and there's a horse trail there right now, is there anything but dirt there right now? I don't remember. There's just dirt, right?
If I recall, it's a DG path, and I believe it has a concrete curb on either side.
So it's improved already? It has a, what is it? Is it a 2-foot lawn, and then 3-foot in curb, and then 4-foot in DG, or what is it?
Sorry, I'm trying to see as far as the improvement sections for that.
My question is this, are they gonna be responsible for that trail and improve, and maintain the DG, and possibly like a white fence or something along there, or what's gonna happen with that?
The trail area would basically stay as is. As far as the DG trail, the concrete curb, it would stay as is.
Okay. And the LMD, there's an LMD along there right now, isn't there, or no?
That is my understanding, yes.
And they'll continue maintaining that unless, now what we talked about earlier, the CCNRs aren't gonna take that over, are they? Okay, so it's gonna be maintained, okay.
It's currently maintained by Valley-wide LMD, and they will, since we don't own it, they'll continue to maintain it.
Okay. Phase 2 on, this is parcel 9 and 10, that's phase 2, right?
Yes.
So what do you plan on doing it in the intervening time?
We have
dirt, planting it, sod, what?
conditions that we're going to hedge it, landscape its perimeter, and
Hydro
then we
seed.
have, I think, wildflower mix required, so it's not maintained in a dirt lot.
Okay. Might want to talk to, I don't know, have you discussed any kind of planting sod or anything on there, or?
You said it was
No,
hydroseeded.
Just
it would be
hydroseed's okay?
hydroseeded with some kind of native
Right.
drought-tolerant
Okay.
covering.
You're okay with that? in the
Yes.
meantime? Okay. Let's see here. On the corner here, on the northeast corner, what do we have going on there? I see I don't know if that's the property line and that's a setback. What do we have architecturally or landscaping-wise there?
Looking at the far northeast corner, there's the existing sign there for the community. I'm trying to remember exactly what's there. I think it's backed by palm trees, and then it actually goes onto the property for this project, which, this corner here, they're proposing a potential outdoor seating area, and then it would go into Pad E, which, if I can pull up the architecture for Pad E.
I don't know if they want it next.
So they don't own that corner then, right? Or is that part of Valleyway?
I believe that's part of the LMD.
That is
Correct.
That is?
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's an existing monument sign identifying, I believe, the lakes.
The lakes, okay, okay. And you didn't have, I don't see any signs on there, we didn't have anything planned for that then, right?
No,
That's
in
just gonna
fact,
be
we had actually had a sign there, and we eliminated it.
eliminated, okay. Those are my big issues, so if anyone else wants to talk, I'm sure I'll have one or two others here in a minute. Oh, I'm sorry, one more. On the southwest corner, on where Rockport and Menifee comes in,
Yes.
there's a light, is there currently a crosswalk there? Or is there a crosswalk there? Down below, southwest corner? And you got the school there, these kids are gonna be going across the street and going to Stater Brothers.
There is a traffic signal there.
There's a signal, but
So
is,
I'm not 1,000% certain, but I do believe there's a pedestrian border, but I'm not sure. If not, obviously, we're gonna be modifying the Newport Menifee and adding pedestrian.
well, that's at Newport Menifee, but what about on Rockport and Menifee? That's what I'm concerned about. Literally, hundreds of kids come out, and they're all gonna be beelining it for Stater Brothers.
I do believe there is a crosswalk at that location, yes.
Can we
It's
make-
just it's just one leg, yeah. I'm almost positive it's just one leg. I just don't know which leg it is right now, but going north-south and east-west as well.
Well, perhaps, you know how, my concern is you only have one side, one leg crosswalk. Maybe we can put a condition in there that the other side will have those little chains or something that keeps the kids from crossing there. What kind of safety measures can we put in there? Or put dual side crosswalks?
Right now, our consultant informed me we do have it on the north side of the intersection and east side.
The north and east, okay, that's fine, because that leads right into the,
And we can incorporate that into our striping traffic plan.
okay. So if we could address that, whatever needs to go on there to make sure that happens. Okay, go ahead, guys, those are my biggies so far. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. A couple of the residents brought up a couple issues. On the road Rockport, is that the old Newport Road? Is that the same one? So so Charles, all these developments that are going to be put in to the east, do they use Laguna and do they use Rockport? They use all of these roads, this is their only entrance and exit? It looks like it, this is the old Newport, right? So if you went more to the east, all this new development that's coming in there, that's gonna be traffic added there, right?
There will be traffic added, yes, and I don't know the details of what the developments, in order for those developments to have been approved, there would have had to have been an appropriate traffic analysis performed that would have identified where the traffic flows would be and the widths and capacities of roadways to handle that traffic. I have to assume that was done correctly in the past.
Okay, well, I was looking at too, some of what, I was concerned about the signal on Newport, but then hearing about the other housing developments, it's gonna be to the east, and that would put more pressure on Menifee and more pressure on Laguna Vista. I kind of am agreeing with Chris that we need to leave that light. Callie Kirkpatrick is a big concern, that school over there and the safety of those kids. I was the first PTA president when that school opened, and so I have a concern, and I'm grateful too that you reached out to the schools and incorporated them into the quality of your development. I wanted to let you know that. But whatever we can do, I'm not the
Obviously,
engineer.
we want to create a safe and
Yeah.
visually affected, whether it's with enhanced signage or some type of enhancement on
Right.
a pedestrian corridor there.
Yeah,
with the school.
if you
We're
can work with,
obviously open to
yeah,
that.
if you can work with staff on that, that's a big concern. And I know some of the residents were concerned about their palm trees, but again, I can see with the traffic issue that just, if we can just do the best we can to save whatever we can on that road and.
You know, they are, they're beautiful palm trees.
Yeah,
There's
it's a
13 of
beautiful
them.
entrance.
It's aesthetically pleasing. I think if you also look at the amount of landscaping that we're going to add on our eastern boundary, it's going to be really quite an enhancement to that. I think we can work with staff and traffic if we can diminish that capacity of that pocket and perhaps save 1 or 2 palm trees and limit it down to maybe 3 or 4.
I'm in agreement with you. We need
Yeah.
the turn, we need the left turn. There's too many houses going in,
Right.
but if we could reduce the pocket, whatever we need to.
Yeah,
We
whatever.
will work with staff and to their direction on traffic. We'll
Okay.
try to minimize that.
And, you know, I know this, you don't have any control over this right now, but you heard from a lot of the residents. You heard about fast food, you heard about quality restaurants, and I hope that, you know, as the quality outfit Stater Brothers is, that you will seek out, you said sometimes it's driven by the economy and it's driven by what wants to come here, but I think we can be a little picky on what we want here too, so.
We really do, and let me speak a little to that on one of the residents that, you know, where tenants roll in and out. Our preference for a quality center is also to establish corporate leases and developments. We generally like our pad developments on 10, 15, 20-year corporate guarantees, so we don't have that rollover. It's not good for us, it's not good for anyone. Lenders like it, capital markets like it. We keep these centers long-term. As I mentioned, all of our centers, 100% occupancy. I think we had 1 or 2 vacancies in all our centers, even during this recession. So, you know, we've been very fortunate, but I think part of it is we'll wait for the right development opportunity.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate the buffer. That was one thing on Rockport for those residents. I appreciated all that buffer with all those pine trees there. So you did a good job on that.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Commissioner
You
Phillips,
covered-
any questions?
No, the only problem I had with this whole project, which I did like, was the fast food. I just don't like them. We've got too many of them here in Menifee. They don't provide any nutrition or health to the community. And if anything is gonna take down our young people, is a continuing addiction to these foods. And so I would kinda hope and pray and recommend that if you can, replace that with another venue other than fast food. I think the community would really appreciate and adapt to the change.
We really
That's
do
my
want
only
to put and
concern.
incorporate the tenants that the community wants, right? There's no sense in us putting something in, and I think there's an evolution that's taking place too in the fast food industry. You know, there is a shift from, you know, just the obesity that happens and health concerns in our nation, shifting to better quality food. So
Yeah,
it's
healthier.
consumer driven, and I think that's going to occur. You look at CVS, what a fantastic element they did as incorporated, eliminating tobacco. So we're going to do our best.
So a corner bakery would be really good there.
Okay, I've got a couple questions of the engineering department. I think earlier you mentioned that it would probably go from 55, the speed limit on Newport, down to 45. So
I can see that
I'm
happening, yes.
assuming signs would be posted, at what point do you think that would happen? At the beginning of the project or after the project opens? I mean, and what's the timing for the road improvements and putting the signal in? After the construction, or say at the beginning?
No, they would be conditioned to construct it prior to the project being completed. And as for the speed survey, we would probably do the speed survey shortly after the project opening to find out what the 85th percentile is, which, like I said, I've got a pretty good feel that it's going to be reduced from where it's at now. Now, it might take some time. It might go from 55 maybe down to 50, and then eventually from 50 to 45, but I do see it going down. And like I said, we'd probably perform that analysis shortly after the project opening. And we can perform this analysis yearly. So on a yearly basis, we can, and especially if it's coming from the community asking for it, our traffic department can go out there whenever see fit. If we see some new parameters that have changed that would show a significant reduction in miles per hour, we'll go out there and analyze it and verify.
Well, see, because I was just wondering, because because I know one of the speakers mentioned a lot of construction traffic, and there is a lot of traffic on that road, so maybe toward the beginning of the project, the construction, because all of it would be the time to put the signal in and then, you know, do the 45 thing to help everything else out. And then synchronize the lights, and that would help with that. I'm just trying to, as a safety standpoint.
The construction traffic would be significantly less than the traffic that the development would generate. So
No, I understand, but there's a lot of traffic on that road now, and with the construction traffic that'll add to that is one of my concerns.
well, we could definitely look into it and see if we can maybe adjust the traffic striping and signing. And work with the development to expedite the signal as soon as possible so that we can facilitate movement in, as well as come up with a haul route that would be suitable for the entire community.
So a question from start to finish, construction, how long is it gonna take? A year, 2 years, 3 years?
I may be able to address a couple of these. Sorry to interrupt. It's one, you are correct. All on and off sites will be constructed prior to occupancy of any tenant. So they will all be in place. It won't be phased in any aspect of that. Construction period, Stater Brothers would like to open first quarter of 16. So this is something that is going to move fairly rapidly. A construction window, plus or minus 9 months, is a reasonable expectation for a neighborhood center.
And that's phase 1 or phase 1 and 2?
That'll be all of phase 1, but the only thing not being built in phase 2 is basically the 2 shop buildings and that parking field. All the main drive aisles, parking fields, everything else is being constructed in one phase.
All right, thank you.
Couple additional ones. I wonder if we could put a condition on here that during construction, no construction vehicles are on Menifee Road because of all the school. I don't want to see semis with bulldozers and, you know, dump trucks and all those regular vehicles.
Well, unless during the summertime when school's out,
Yeah.
we could.
So what about that, Charles? Is there anything problematic with
You
that?
could create such a condition, but I don't know if it would actually resolve the issue that you have. The
What if we limited south of Rockport? Because that's going to be the impact of the, obviously we're going to need points of ingress and egress, but south of Rockport is where we get into the pedestrian and the school.
Right.
The south.
Yeah.
So that may be, you know, something that's workable and that we can enforce with our GC on site
That's
construction.
fine.
That
Just
would be
trying to
great.
limit that. Other item is the median coming in off of Newport, is that landscaped, planned to be landscaped? The median on the driveway coming
I
in?
had that written down too, and I forgot to mention it.
The
medium.
median
in the main driveway.
in the main driveway? Is that
Yes.
landscaped?
Yes.
I
That
think it is.
Okay. And then, could we, last item, can we see
But it needs quality.
on the Stater Brothers, the south I'm sorry, the west wall elevation? The one facing Menifee Road?
Would you like to see it on the model or staff?
Just, no, on here is fine, what
Okay.
he's got here.
I'm not sure I have it included in the PowerPoint, so it might be better viewed on the applicant's presentation.
So let's go Rockport. Oh, what do you, the west elevation.
That'd be the Menifee Road side.
Go to. Go to Rockport Access. And you spin it and get the west elevation of this building right here.
Okay.
So it looks like you have some architecture. What I'm looking for is to see if you got any architecture on that west side. So you do have some, okay.
Yes.
And what's the back of that building look like again? The one along Menifee? No, other way. Other
Spin
way.
it around.
There you go. You've
We
got-
we have added similar articulation along that whole frontage because Menifee is obviously a visual road and people are gonna see that.
And are those in those gray insets, are those windows or just painted gray?
I think they're, I believe, colors, and then we have the trellises you'll see on the outside that are gonna be vined. It's very similar to the treatment of the Stater Brothers building as well.
Okay. That's all I got.
I had another question of staff concerning the variances. Is there more than one variance? Approving variance number 2014-195?
Yes, there are variances both for the size of the second 20-foot sign and the number of signs.
As well as the setback per the specific plan.
That's what I was at, the setback. Okay, so it's the setback and the signage. Okay. And that's all incorporated in one variance then? Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
It's basically 3 portions of one variance.
You're gonna fix all these things, come back with beautiful drawings and make us all happy? Yeah. Good.
Could I speak? Could I speak? I'm Joe Meyer. I'm partners with Larry on the development. And we were hearing the concern of the schools, and we started looking at our iPhones. And in discussions with Stater Brothers, we'd like to propose maybe a condition on ourselves, which we don't normally do, but we'd like to offer that maybe by the school, where we have the one crosswalk, we were thinking maybe one of the buttons that light up the crosswalk in the street and get those kids over
That'd be
safely
wonderful.
That would-
would be something we'd like to offer
That
and
would be
thinks it'd
great.
work well.
That would be really good.
So we're here listening to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
just so you stated, I'm excited about this development.
Yes.
Number one, it keeps people on this side of the freeway.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, much more shopping opportunities. So I think it's a good development. Make it
Yep.
perfect.
So would anyone like to make any motions?
We're gonna obviously have to continue it, right, because they got some things to come back.
Do we need,
If the commission is comfortable, we really would like to request your approval of this. I think the only things we have to come back with are, we're comfortable with working with staff. I think there are only 1 or 2 items, predominantly the gathering areas, or if we want to bring those back, I think Charles, you indicated that if we do something at staff and it's shared and you don't like it, in part because we have a delivery schedule that we're trying to get this store open and get it serviced into the community.
We can add a condition, you can take action tonight. We already dealt with the one issue where the director will review. You can just add to that the common area, the gathering area, as something that's director will review and approve, working with the applicant, and then you'll have the opportunity, if you don't like what you see, when I've given that approval, to appeal it to this body. That way they can have their approval, move forward with their plans, leaving those particular aspects. If they come up and we can't come to an agreement, then it can come back to, or if you don't like the agreement we come to, it can come back to you. So it'll move the project along, but still give you the opportunity to make sure that you're comfortable with what ultimately will be built.
I don't know if I'm comfortable with that, because this may involve some significant changes. You know, if
I think
you're
we've
gonna-
identified, and I do hear what you're saying, we don't want to push this onto you, but again, you know, we've been working 15 months on this, for, you know, resubmittals. You know, we've invested quite a lot. I think we have done a very good job. The two enhancements areas, I think the monument signage is something easily correctable. And then the other are 2 or 3 of the
You've got the seating
gathering
area,
areas.
you've got the monument out front.
Quality landscaping, landscaping around the new the monument on Menifee. But Chris, I trust our staff.
Well,
to-
well,
I mean, the things we're asking are minor. I mean, compared to what this shopping center is.
I think everything could be solved. I'm just concerned about the seating area and.
You know what,
that
they
it's gonna
brought,
be a
they brought
significant
forward,
change.
they have agreed to do everything we've asked. They have brought forward a quality development.
What do you see, Charles, as far as, say the process again, if whatever they come up with, you're gonna show it to us, and if we don't like it, it will stop the process, or what's gonna happen?
If we added into the condition dealing with the shopping cart corrals, then I will have to do an administrative review and approval of it, working with the applicant. And then that approval is provided to you and the council, and if you or council chooses to appeal that decision, you appeal it to this body, and/or the council appeals it to this body, and then it can go up to the council.
So if I don't like it, I have to go through an appeal process then?
You have to, yes, sign your, you have to sign your, put your signature on a one-page application that gets it back in front of this body.
Are you comfortable understanding, and again, I'm speaking for myself, I can't speak for the rest of the commission, but what I'm trying to accomplish on the seating area, a significant architectural location? Do
I
you
am
understand?
comfortable, yes, I believe I know what you're talking about. I don't know if they're fully aware
That's what my
of the
concern
level.
is, that you're gonna sit down and you're gonna go, wait, and this costs too much, this is changing it, and
And-
then. it's not gonna
We were
happen.
willing to make that commitment, and I can rest assured, it's where we demonstrated this commitment before there was an obligation. We're long-term property owners. We're going to do something that you're going to be very pleased with.
Okay, so I'm gonna, again, speaking for me, I trust Charles that he will pull his teeth out and make sure this is done, because he knows what I like.
Several bite marks.
There you go. And so, and that if the process, there is no agreement, you'll notify us, because, so I'll put it, if you're okay with it, if the rest of the commission's okay with that, then I'm okay with it.
That'd be
And the
good
only
for
other
Mark
question,
Field if
I
we
just
make
want to
that
reaffirm our modification of the mezzanine area, because that's critical to both State of Brothers and CVS.
Russell, if we did that, basically they want it for storage and office
Break
space.
rooms and
So
office space.
is that gonna that's gonna up their parking requirement, isn't it?
Correct. Those would normally be calculated in the parking requirements.
And that's why he wants a variance, so it's
No,
not.
he doesn't want a variance, he wants you to interpret the code to not include that area as duplicative of what staff in the rest of the building would already be there for. It would set a precedent, but
That's my
we don't get
concern.
that many shopping, supermarkets in the community, so I don't think it would create a harmful precedent.
Okay.
I'm okay as long as he's not gonna hurt us.
And so for that, we would just be a sentence probably in that existing condition to clarify those are excluded.
There you go. We can work with you.
That would be great. Thank you.
The one thing I wanted to have you guys take another look at, and this is just a recommendation, is the concern about security. While it's nice to have tenant-driven security systems, when you're dealing with the parking lots over this whole area, I think that might be something you would want to take another look at to see what you and the sheriff department come up with. I don't have a problem with that, but I like to keep that on the radar.
And it is in the condition, the way it's currently structured, we're required to satisfy the sheriff's department and staff.
Right, because Menifee is undergoing slow but steady demographic change, and a lot of things are happening in this city that are very adverse. But we want to be sure that our centers where a lot of people are, or where they come to, are adequately surveyed, and the citizens can feel safe knowing that there's some kind of surveillance. We just don't have the police force that can go in and check hour by hour. So that's one thing that I think it was pointed out by someone in the audience, that when you have a new collection point for people, that's going to be an opportunity for a criminal element to show up. And so that's a concern that eventually is going to be the elephant in the room. So if you could be a little proactive on that.
We will make sure that is addressed.
All right, thank you.
With that being said, I'm looking for if anyone wants to make a couple motions.
Do we have to, can you do them all at once, or we have to do them individually?
All separately, please.
Sure. You want to do it? You sure?
He can't make a motion.
Oh.
Unless after-
Okay.
you wanna use-
Sure. I'd like to recommend
That's what it set up that way.
that we adopt resolution number PC 14-192, adopting a mitigated negative declaration.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second.
Commissioner Phillips. Commissioner Sobek.
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Chair Metelko.
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion, we adopt resolution number PC 14-188, approving plot plan number 2014-091.
With the modifications and the corrections to the
Yes.
conditions as noted.
Okay. Did you add
Second.
that?
We have a motion and a second.
Commissioner Phillips.
Let me
Aye.
stop there for just a moment. I would encourage the applicant and staff to get together after this and make sure your notes are the same.
Oh,
There was a
we
lot
d-
of,
We definitely will,
a lot
yes.
of conditions that we amended, so, okay.
So Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Sobek.
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Chair Metelko.
Yes,
Would somebody else like to make another motion?
You're doing
you're
great.
doing
Okay.
fine.
All right. Adopt resolution number PC 14-191, approving variance number 2014-195.
Second?
Commissioner Phillips.
Motion and a second.
Aye.
Commissioner Sobek.
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Chair Metelko.
Yes.
Like to make a recommendation, we adopt resolution number PC 14-189, approving conditional use permit number 2014-092.
Second?
There's a motion and a second.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Sobek.
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Chair Metelko.
Aye.
And again, we assume that that's with the clarification of the
Clar-
conditions.
Yes. I like to recommend that we adopt resolution number PC 14-190, approving tentative parcel map number 2014-093. Do I need to read this PM?
Couldn't hurt, 36,728.
Yeah, PM 36728.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Sobek.
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Chair Metelko.
Yes.
Good, that's it.
And you have yourself a project. And with that, that concludes 9.2, which takes us to section 10, discussion items.
Yes.
I do want to just make one comment. Thank you very much for your vote of confidence. We do not take it lightly, and I don't envision any of the stuff coming back to you. We will work well with staff.
Thank you.
Thank you for the quality
Thank you very much.
project.
I'll let you.
And there appear to be no discussion items. Section 11, Community Development Director comments.
Two things. One, would like to know whether or not you intend to cancel your December 24th Planning Commission meeting.
That was I was going to do that right before the adjournment.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And second, I feel I have to respond to Bonnie's comments earlier. in regards to her project. She has two issues that are working. One, the land use that she's conducting at that property that does not currently have city or county approvals. Second is an accessory structure on which she's going to put solar facilities, solar panels. We are working with her in order to enter into an agreement so that she can get her permits for her solar panels before the end of this year. There's tax benefits and so forth, and that's what we're working on. That agreement will then obligate her to address her land use issues at a point in the future. Those may be addressed by what we used to refer to as the rural business license ordinance that the city is working on, but it's not just rural anymore, it's citywide. So that may take precedent over her getting a minor a conditional use permit or some other kind of review. So we are working with her. But working with her takes some time. And it also has to be, since it's a legal agreement, gone through by the city attorney's office. So we are attempting to work with her in a reasonable time frame. We have met with her. We have spoken to her. I have. Lisa has. We are not charging our hours to it. Finance department doing the things that she's requesting, which any citizen can do, does not charge its time to her against her $2,500 deposit. We are doing as best as we can to minimize the cost for this small business owner, the same as we would to anyone. She made reference about the shade. I'm not sure what she's talking about with the shade for the location of the accessory structure. We also had suggested, as we would to anyone, if you use small structures, either the ground mounted for the solar, you wouldn't need your accessory building review, or if your buildings aren't accessory, if they're under 120 square feet, the collection of small buildings, that would have worked as well. She has chosen one large accessory structure, and we're working with her on that. Secondly, no, that was it. We are working with her as diligently as we can, as quickly as we can on this changing target, because she's making decisions based upon information that we are giving her.
Well, when a business owner comes forward and they want to make changes on their property and they've been not approved, is that what you were saying? There was an approved business there at one?
There are activities going on the site, land use activities going on the site that she had been advised 1 to 2 years ago needed to be reviewed and approved that she has not yet done.
So how does this affect her sign that's on the wall that you see from the freeway?
That's one of the issues that has to be addressed in the land use issue.
Because she's coming forward to making a change. I've heard in the past, we're not going out to these business owners, but if they come forward and they're wanting to make a change, then we can address some of these issues. I believe that's an issue along the freeway, that sign on her wall. So I like it. I like it.
Well, I just felt we had to, I am disappointed that she left, but we are trying very hard to work with her.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any commissioner reports on committee activities?
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead, Earl.
Well, you can go ahead and do the ELAC. I attended a town hall meeting given by my council person, Greg August, that dealt with mailbox theft. And it was a very positive interaction. The postmaster decided he was going to step up and help out the community as far as defraying some of the costs for replacing the damaged and worn out cluster mailboxes. And there was a representative there from a mailbox vendor who also decided he was going to step up and assist the community as far as installing these new tamper-proof mailboxes. The police chief also spoke, and it was very enlightening what he said. This mailbox problem is is a region-wide thing. And people are losing their mail. And they are really, really looking to the community to help be their eyes and ears as far as catching these perpetrators of these crimes. And so I think the audience was left very comfortable with the idea that we have the higher agencies, the U.S. Postal Service, the police department, and the city are all on board with trying to see what we can do to resolve these issues. I'll let Commissioner Sobek talk about the ELAC.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner, my mind just went blank. Phillips, sorry. Commissioner Phillips and I attended the ELAC, the California State University San Marcos Environmental Leadership Academy, and we just finished our 4th session. And this last session, we heard from some great speakers on historical preservation areas, and the planning of movement on our roads and how that's funded, the different through the state, federal, through grants, measures. And so when anybody asks me why aren't we building the overland overpass, I have an answer. I can explain that well about the funding. And we had our keynote speaker on one evening was a past Lieutenant Governor Cruz Bustamante. He was a Lieutenant Governor, and he spoke about leadership and the things that we need to have in environmental justice. And it was a very positive experience. I would highly recommend it for any of staff to attend this, and any of the council members and any other planning commissioners to attend this. It was very good, and learned a lot. So hopefully we'll be able to help our city better in the decisions we make.
Thank you. Any other commission reports or comments? Hearing none, before we move to adjourn, due to the Christmas holiday, the next meeting on December 24th is canceled, and the next Planning Commission meeting will be held on January 14th, 2015. And with that, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.